Hello and welcome to the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack.
And Sean Chapman.
As always, we are here to talk about stuff.
Yeah, as always.
Alright.
I mean, we've actually secretly been making podcasts weekly since the last one.
Yes.
We just didn't release them because
we're mad at you.
Yeah, it's our secret plan.
Yeah, something like that. Alright, been 2 months. Been a break. I mean, I don't know, what can we say? Been summer.
Yeah.
We've been doing stuff.
Yeah, we've been busy.
I texted you a couple times and you never responded, and I'm like, he's probably busy.
Yeah, I just did not have any time
or
energy to do the podcast past June, basically. So
all right, it happens.
It's a new season.
So
we took a seasonal break.
We took a bit of a seasonal break. Stuff happened though, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get back on a more consistent schedule. I can't promise it'll be weekly forever now, but I know life is moving in a direction where we'll be able to do this more consistently.
Yes.
The world is moving in a direction because, Doctor Who's coming back. That'll give us weekly content.
Atlas USA is still insisting that Persona 5 is coming out in 2015. So
yeah, I don't believe that, but
if that does happen,
sure, there's lots of stuff for us to do.
Stuff to happen.
But that means we got to clear the slate before the fall. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have at least one episode. This might be a 2-parter. It might be a 3-parter. I don't know. We're going to record it. We're going to split it up as it lays.
Yeah.
We're going to see what happens. But this is how we spent our summer vacation episode. Our spectacular, whatever you want to call it. It's a very special episode.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about all sorts of things that happened over the summer. I'm going to talk about a vacation I took. Sean's going to talk about games he played.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Batman Arkham Knight, because we both played it.
Yes.
And we were going to
when it came out. Yeah.
We played when it came out, and we were going to do a big episode, and I had notes and everything, and then it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It was a great game. We need to talk about it. What else? I've seen movies. You've seen movies.
I've seen movies. I've seen one movie that is fit to talk about on the podcast.
I finished watching Twin Peaks finally. Maybe we can talk about that.
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see.
I finished watching Twin Peaks 2 years ago.
Awesome.
So I'm sure I remember everything to have that conversation.
I forgot if you'd said you watched the whole thing or not.
Yeah.
Did you see the whole thing?
I don't think I ever finished season 2.
Oh, okay.
So no.
You got it. There's a lot of shit to wade through in season 2.
Yeah.
But when you get to the end, holy crap!
Yeah, I've always heard that the end of season 2 is really good. But I never.
It is David Lynch at his David Lynchiest. That's all I'll say.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Is the whole episode just shot in negative and flipped upside down or something?
Some of it.
Fucking great. Fucking great.
About 30 minutes of it are done completely with backwards talk.
Is
that good enough for you?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not kidding. About 30 minutes of it.
Yeah. I'll definitely rewatch Twin Peaks around the time the new stuff comes out.
If it ever comes out. They're supposed to be shooting it next month. I still don't believe it, but we'll see. It would be really cool if it happened.
Maybe all of the new Twin Peaks will just be in backwards talk.
Oh, fuck it. I think David Lynch, the last movie he made was Inland Empire, which I haven't seen, but was supposed to be super experimental for him. So maybe he's just going to go further in that direction, and the new Twin Peaks will be the most avant-garde thing to ever happen to television.
Or maybe he's just decided to be completely change his style and just be utterly conventional, totally bland, utterly unrecognizable as a director.
The whole thing is there's been all these rumors, is it going to be 9 episodes? Is it going to be 18? How many episodes is this thing going to be? And at the Television Critics Association press tour this summer, the head of Showtime, this was just a couple weeks ago, said, well, look, they're starting shooting it in September. David's going to shoot the whole thing straight through. They're going to do all of it. And they're not going to know how many episodes it is until they get in the cutting room, and then they're going to figure it out. That could either be the best thing or the worst thing.
Yeah, it ends up just being one 8-hour episode.
Yeah,
that's just how you felt it should come out.
Well, we will see, definitely.
So we're devoting one day to Twin Peaks.
Yeah. It could either be... That's also how they did Arrested Development Season 4, and that was a disaster, so we'll see. I have more faith in David Lynch than the Arrested Development people, but we'll see. Yeah. In any case, that's not current news, so let's talk about current stuff. Where should we start, Sean?
I don't know. You just start where you want to start.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
This is the grab bag of an episode.
This is how I spent my summer vacation, and the most important thing to me this summer vacation is last week, or 2 weeks ago now, my family and I, we went to Austin, Texas, and I went to RTX, which is the Rooster Teeth convention.
Was this the third RTX they've done, or is it the
fifth?
The fifth, really?
Yeah.
Man,
They started in 2011.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That just makes me realize how long... that's a weird time reference for me now.
Yeah, well, RTX, if you don't know, Rooster Teeth is the online video company. They started making Red vs. Blue. They make more stuff than I can keep track of now.
Yes.
But it's kind of interesting. So I'd always wanted to go to RTX because I was a big Rooster Teeth fan in the day, and I still watch a lot of their stuff. But it's funny, I don't watch their main stuff anymore. Like I haven't watched Red vs. Blue in 3 years. I
think we stopped watching Red vs. Blue at like the same time.
Yeah, during season 11, and I've never really seen RWBY. It's just I don't have anything against it. Yeah. It's just not my thing.
Although they released that trailer for like the Japanese dub, they have some like really well-known Japanese actresses like voicing that show, which is like weird that like I look at that, like I watched the trailer for it, I was like, this weirdly seems more authentic than the original product. That's because I mean obviously the voice acting is just going to be better because they're like professional voice actresses, like really highly regarded. That's
what I was going to say is that with RWBY, I always thought it sounded like a kind of subpar dub of itself. Yeah. So I kind of want to hear the Japanese version. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't watch like their biggest tier productions, but I'm a big fan of their podcast. I like some of their other stuff. And just the history of it. I like those guys. I like those people. Yeah, definitely. And my brother is an even bigger fan because he watches Achievement Hunter stuff all the time. He knows all their stuff. I think he's kept up with Red vs. Blue. I think he watches the seasons when they're done. He hasn't like watched it week to week. But anyway, so he was really excited to do this. And finally, just like, we always wanted to go. It just worked out this year to do it. And I have so many things I could say about it. But I'll start with this. This year was the biggest one they've had so far. They expanded to 45,000 attendees for this convention, and it was in 3 locations. They filled the entire Austin Convention Center and then 2 hotels nearby, the Marriott and the Hilton, and they had big ballrooms and stuff they were filling there. So like the biggest ballroom they had, which is where they did the podcast panel and some of the other cool panels, that is the biggest room I've ever been in my life. And they packed in just thousands and thousands of people into that thing. And you would think that would be miserable. And that's kind of why I'd always been hesitant to do this, is conventions just not my thing. I don't want to go stand in lines. I don't want to deal with that many people. This was nothing but pleasant, this experience. Cool. Like, they know how to run a fucking convention. Like, there was one thing where there was kind of a miserable line for, but it was kind of a separate thing, and I'll talk about that later. But for the most part, the lines were so well managed. They had a rule where lines couldn't start until an hour before the thing was supposed to start. Now, that didn't always work because you can't get rid of people, and people are jerks and will ignore the rules sometimes. But for the most part, it wasn't just standing in lines all the time. They really organized it well. We had good seats for almost everything we wanted to see. We got into pretty much everything we wanted to see. And all the people there were cool. I think it's kind of nice to have a convention where everyone has at least a baseline of we all like the same stuff.
Sure, yeah.
And everyone, I think, is nice and polite and stuff because it's a happy thing. Like, Rooster Teeth, one of the things I've always appreciated them is they are a force on the internet that just puts out positivity. Yeah. They don't contribute to the negative, shit of the internet. And I think everyone there thinks the same way. And obviously is enthusiastic to be there, and no one's there to ruin someone else's time, except these 2 kids who tried to cut in line, and they were like 14 and probably are too young to be watching Rooster Teeth stuff, so they should have left. But that was weird. Other than that,
14 is not too. 14 is like the perfect age.
Perfect age. Okay.
Like, let's be fucking honest.
That's true.
Like,
that's true.
I can't even remember how old I was when I first started watching Red vs. Blue.
That's a good point. Anyway, so it was a really nice experience, and I have a couple things I could talk about because I could go through the whole thing, and I won't do that. But let's talk about a couple of the things. So, first thing I want to bring this in and show it to Sean. The first day we started with, they did autographs in a different way this year, where I'd heard in previous years I think they just had autograph times and you would come and line up, but those would be clusterfucks because everyone would want to go get, you know, Bernie Burns' autograph or something. So now they did it in a ticketed way where if you had a ticket to the event, they would send you a code and then you use that code to redeem something for one autograph session. And then everyone who got to go, if you got a ticket for that, you were guaranteed to get a spot in line and get an autograph and stuff. Which was a really nice way to do it.
Yeah.
But you could only, the way it was done was each ticket had a code attached to it, so I went to get my brother Thomas's code first, because I knew he really wanted to see, they had Bernie Burns and Matt Hullum, who are kind of the founders of the company, in a signing together. So I got that for him, and then I was trying to get one for myself for that one, and it was sold out by the time I got that one, because this was happening so fast. Yeah. So I got to meet Meg Turney and Ashley Jenkins, who do their new stuff, and I like them, I'm fans of them, so that was fun. And they were cool to meet and everything, but Thomas got to meet Bernie, and the whole thing was Thomas wanted to bring the Red vs. Blue Blu-rays we have to get signed, because that would make sense, right?
That makes sense. It's like, the thing they did to get started.
Right. But we didn't know where they were. We realized on the night before we were going to leave for Austin, and I had come down to my parents' house because we were going to leave to go out of town, and I I think they might be here in the apartment somewhere. They must be, because
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Thomas didn't have them. They weren't at our house, so they must be here somewhere. But we couldn't find them. So I said, "That's okay. We can turn this into lemonade. We can make this work." So I said, "Thomas, I want you to just take this note card to Bernie. Tell him I lost the Blu-rays, and tell him to just insult me." And I got the greatest personalized autograph of all time. Go ahead and read that, Sean.
"Hey, Jonathan. Thanks for losing the Blu-rays, dumbass. Bernie. P.S. You're a dirtbag."
Sarge, it's Matt.
Yeah.
Isn't that the greatest?
That's pretty good.
That's way better.
Thought you should have. I mean, probably the timing would not have been able to work out, but you should have gotten a Strangerhood DVD and had him sign that.
Okay, here's what I was going to say, though. Speaking of Strangerhood, one of the panels we saw on the first day this was really cool. It was Founding Fathers of Rooster Teeth, and they had the original, 6 guys up there. And that was a really cool thing to see, because they don't do stuff together.
Were they all dressed
anymore.
up as, the Founding Fathers of America?
No.
That would have been pretty good.
No. They did not. I saw a lot of cool cosplay. They did not. They themselves did not do cosplay.
That's unfortunate.
It's okay, but there was this one point where Jeff just started ripping into the Strangerhood, and it was he said, normally he was trying to explain how they, in the beginning, were trying to figure out how many DVDs to press of Red vs. Blue, and they're like, "Do you think people would buy 10,000 of these if we pressed 10,000?" And I don't know. That sounds like we're gonna have a lot of overstock. And they did that, and they famously sold out. And all that. And they said, so when we did the Strangerhood, we got kind of cocky. And we're still selling those. And he explained, if you go to the Rooster Teeth store, it's just automatically in your cart. You have to, deselect it. We just give them away. It's and then everyone was kind of laughing. He's like, "You're laughing. None of you have seen that, have you? Have any of you in this room seen the Strangerhood?" And then a guy raised a DVD he just had with him. And he's like, "That's the one guy. That's the one guy who brought the Strangerhood." It was really funny. He just tore into that. And I've never seen it, but...
I don't know if I ever watched all of it. I definitely watched some of the Strangerhood. I remember thinking it was okay at the time.
Anyway, Jeff does not like it, so that was very funny.
I mean, it's definitely not one of their best things. There's a reason why there's no Strangerhood season 2.
There is. It's coming out next week.
Of course.
Yeah. No, I'm serious.
Seriously?
Yeah. It was for their Indiegogo for their movie.
No.
They set it at a goal they never thought they would get to.
Sure.
And then they got to it, so they're making a 4-episode second season.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not a real second season.
No, but... And I'm not even sure how they're doing it. Maybe they're just doing CGI, because that's probably easier than actually doing the machinima for it.
They're going, loading up Sims 3, I think, what it was on.
They have a whole animation staff now. I think that'd be a lot easier. But, so we saw a lot of good panels. We saw the Rooster Teeth Animated Adventures panel. That was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen the intro video for that yet, that they did, they do a different intro video every year. I think last year was the one where they parodied the Kanye video, Bound 2, with Gus and everyone as their RTAA selves. So that was a lot of fun. We got to see one of the John Erler, who voices Agent North in Red vs. Blue, I think, one of the freelancers from that arc of the show.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He's in this group called Master Pancake Theater, and they're kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000, except they also do stuff like they play with the movie and they cut stuff out and add stuff in and do some of that. And they had a live show they were doing Terminator 2, and it was the first night. We got into that. Got great seats, too. And that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Those guys are really funny. I know they tour sometimes. I don't know if they've ever been to Colorado, but if they come here, I would love to see them again. They are very funny. And I wouldn't have thought Terminator 2 would have been that ripe for it, because I think usually they do bad movies.
Yeah.
I know that same weekend they were advertising they were doing Twister at the Draft House down there in Austin. And that seems like a more fitting movie, because Twister's awful. But Terminator 2 is a good movie. But they did a great job with it, and it was just...
Yeah, I think I can see in my mind's eye how you could you do that with T2.
John Erler did the funniest Arnold Schwarzenegger impression I've ever seen, and he kept it up for basically the whole movie. And every time it started to get stale, he would find a new way to make it funny. That was fantastic. That was one of the highlights. And also, again, that's with 2,000 people in that room, so it's very funny. They had a drinking game, so and it was every time there was an explosion, and you realized very early on, if you actually followed this drinking game, you would die of alcohol poisoning.
You'd be fucking dead. Yeah,
there are a lot of explosions.
There are a lot of explosions in Terminator 2.
Yeah,
it's an explosive action movie.
It is. They had that, and also whenever you see the Pepsi logo, a lot of Pepsi logos in that movie.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. It was the 90s. That's the yeah.
I would. They maybe didn't know. Maybe it wasn't even a marketing deal. Maybe it was just like they couldn't avoid having Pepsi logos appear in their thing.
I do when they mentioned that, I remembering that from the 90s, because I remember my VHS tape of the Michael Keaton Batman starts with the Pepsi ad with Alfred trying to get Batman a Pepsi, and I think a lot of tapes had Pepsi ads at the start for whatever reason. So that was fun. The second day We had a couple of good things. There were some interesting panels. My maybe just favorite panel we went to, because it was so interesting, was Meg Turney did one where it was just her, and it was called How to Handle Haters. And I was curious. Like, I want to see what's this like. And she actually had a really, like, just thoughtful thing about internet hate, basically, and how to deal with that and what that issue is today. And it was very nuanced, thoughtful. And she went through about 20 minutes of her own presentation, and then, like, she hadn't fully timed it. She wasn't sure how much time it was going to be. So she just opened the floor to questions. And normally questions at these things are really awkward if you've listened to this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're great at Rooster Teeth, though, because those guys take it and just make fun of them.
They're funny, yeah, but...
like, at the podcast panel we went to, just awful questions. Nothing good. They're all awful.
Yeah, any of, like, the really general panels just always have the fucking worst questions.
But this was amazing because we went back and forth, and every single person in those lines had a great question. And a thoughtful question that then she had thoughtful things to say about. And that was one of the more interesting things I've ever seen from a Rooster Teeth person, because it was just very thoughtful and introspective and serious in a way. Obviously, as a comedy network, they don't get to be much, but that these people do deal with. And it was just a really interesting thing to see. So I loved that. I loved a couple other panels. The podcast panel was a blast. It was, I listened to the Rooster Teeth podcast. I've listened to it since it started, and it's just been a long time. It's my favorite thing they do. It still is. And so it was cool to see it done live. Yeah. It was just like, I'm in the room, and I can go put this on my podcast app if I want to later. And be like, oh, I was there for that. That was just kind of neat.
Did you learn any hot tips by observing their podcast to bring to our podcast?
We need a British guy who's stupid.
Ricky
Gervais did it?
I can play a stupid British guy if we need to... Oi! Stupid thing. There we go. Are we on... Did we make it big?
I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't observe much. They talk about different things to us. I mean, if we wanted to probably get more views, we'd have to talk about our dicks more. That's really... That's it, right?
Yeah, it's been a while since I would listen to the Rooster Teeth podcast, but that's a fair observation.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the key to the popularity.
Yeah.
A lot of dick talk.
And if we ever had a woman on this podcast, we'd have to say really inappropriate things to her.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'd have to find someone who could, like, a woman who could make a lot of really, really bad puns constantly. In a way that is actually legitimately really impressive.
Yeah, so the coolest thing we did at RTX, though, is they had a concert they set up. This was Saturday night at the Paramount in Austin. And it was the Video Game Orchestra, which is a group from Boston. They're like kind of a rock group, but they also, have string players and stuff, and they do video game music. And it was them. And then it was Jeff Williams, who wrote the music for some of the latter seasons of Red vs. Blue, but also Ruby. And while I don't watch Ruby, I have the soundtracks for Ruby because I love his music. And I think that music is fantastic. And it was him and his daughter who's the vocalist on all those pieces. And they came out for a little bit, did a set, too, with the Video Game Orchestra, which was awesome. And then they had the Bare Naked Ladies.
Of course.
One of the biggest groups in the world, and they're friends with Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
And they came out and did a concert at RTX, and this was after the Video Game Orchestra. So it was a solid 3.5-hour concert. All of it is free, by the way. It all comes with the badge.
Nice.
So that was nice. And just one of the best concerts I've ever been to. And I do go to a fair number of concerts during the year. I like this kind of stuff. And this was so good. The Video Game Orchestra was great. The Bare Naked Ladies are one of the best groups I've ever seen live. And it's kind of funny, because I've listened to their music before, and it's not totally my thing. It's fine, but it's not great. Or I didn't think that. But they are a group who are much better live than they are in the studio. And to me, those are the best bands. If you can be better live than you are in the studio. And they are much better live, and they're so much fun. They're very funny. You can tell why they're friends with the Rooster Teeth guys. They have a very similar sense of kind of improvisational humor.
Yeah.
So that was cool. That was the only one, though, where, the line for that, because it was a small theater and it was a hot, ticket item for RTX. We were kind of there for like 4 hours in the sun in Austin on the hottest day of the year. Yeah.
Nice.
That was the closest I've probably ever come to passing out from heat stroke. But, yeah. And they wrapped that line all around the block. I mean, it was kind of interesting. Gus made a funny joke at the podcast panel he's like, every weekend in Austin, there's some stupid event that shuts down traffic, and 1 week of the year, we get to be the thing that shuts down traffic. So, and Austin's a cool place. It's not my favorite place in the world. I wouldn't want to move there, and it's not because of the heat. I know Austin's hot. I would get used to it.
Yeah,
that's what my family kept bitching about. I'm like, you would get. It's like, how would anyone ever live here? I'm like, you get used to it.
Yeah,
you adapt. People live here.
It's not like the Sahara Desert. You know? It's not impossible to survive.
Right.
in the wasteland of Austin, Texas.
And the other funny thing is, because of the heat, every building in Austin is air-conditioned heavy duty. And it's like that Paramount Theater that the concert was in. I've seen theaters like that in Denver. Those buildings would never in a million years be air-conditioned here. Right. And they are like heavy-duty air-conditioned there. And that kind of made me laugh. Because I think a lot of old buildings in Denver, they don't bother with that. Because it's rarely hot enough to warrant it. But anyway, it was funny. But Austin's a cool place. They had a lot of good food. Best place. And we went to some of the places they used to talk about on the podcast. The best place was definitely Gordo's, which is a place that sells giant donuts with bacon and other stuff on it, like his meals.
Right, yes.
That is a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Austin someday.
It's a cool place. It's fun. And they like that whole thing that I've heard about before also about live music in Austin. It's totally true, because we would walk home every night. It was about a 20, 30-minute walk back to the hotel. And you would just pass like bands everywhere and stuff like that. And lots of homeless people. Good God, Austin does not do a lot for their homeless.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
There's another thing about it. On the RT podcast, they did talk about homeless people.
A lot, yeah. No, there was one point where I think we were in line one morning for, maybe it was the Achievement Hunter panel, and across the street there was a homeless guy just shouting at the top of his lungs for like a good hour.
Nice.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was my big summer thing, was RTX. It was a blast. If you're a fan of Rooster Teeth and you ever want to do that, it's a really cool convention. I would never have imagined, honestly, enjoying something like that as much as I did. And I think that's like the highest praise I can give it.
Yeah.
And just like, if you like Rooster Teeth too, we got to meet or see pretty much everyone from the company we would have wanted to meet or see. And I don't know how they do that with that many people there.
Right,
That's pretty cool. So, yeah, definitely highest recommendation for that.
Cool.
What's something from the summer you want to talk about?
Yeah, I definitely didn't do anything like elaborate, like go on a big vacation and go to a big panel. Although I was just thinking, like, because you were talking about how with RTX, how much it's grown. Like, I wonder at what point, like, the, like, modern, like, smaller sort of, like, video game community-oriented panels, which are, like, mostly dominated by what I think are maybe 4-packs.
Yeah.
Conventions. How is that going? How is that market, like, still growing? It seems insane to me.
It just gets bigger and bigger. You know, RTX is doing their first expansion. They're doing RTX Australia next January. Yeah. And I'm sure they'll do more in the U.S. Like, I think I read an interview with Barbara Dunkelman where she said their goal actually is more countries first. They want to do, like, England and some of those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it is, and I don't know. I think it's the thing of, when you look at it, though, 45,000 people is a tiny fraction of their audience.
That's true.
It's minuscule. But if you have a passionate enough niche audience online, which I don't know if you can call Rooster Teeth niche anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't, probably. But if you get that many people, I think you can bring people together like this. And I think it's something that we're starting to discover as the internet becomes more the dominant mainstream way of consuming media. And I think there's a lot of what is considered mainstream now that doesn't understand the power of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's going to change. And when that stops being a secret, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, because it's just like, I feel like every single year there's like 2 or 3 more conventions that like people I follow on Twitter who are like in video game media and stuff are just talking about constantly having to go to all these different fucking conventions and stuff. I'm like, this seems crazy. Like, if I was in that business of having to cover video games, or if like you're making an indie game who wants to go to all these panels or conventions for exposure, like it's an interesting situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess now. Let's talk about J-Stars.
Some video games? Let's do some video games.
Yeah. I want to talk about J-Stars.
Explain what this is.
Okay. So, it's a game, because you played it when you, like, ported it from...
Yeah, well, let's explain what it is first. So, J-Stars Victory Versus is a game that came out in Japan, I think, last summer.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember the timeline. So,
it was last summer, and it's a Shonen Jump crossover game for the PlayStation 3, or it was originally.
Yeah.
And so it has it has characters from all the different Shonen Jump manga universes, and it's got maps for everyone. It's a really cool game. It's got all the voice actors, it's got all the music, and when it came out, I thought there was no way it would ever come out here, because how do you get the license for that internationally? So I imported it because I wanted to play it. It wasn't that much, and I loved it. Played it on the PS3. It was in Japanese. I really couldn't do the story mode because I couldn't read it all, but could play the game just fine. I can read all the menus and stuff, because it's all katakana and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it, but it just came out in America. So
So I got over the summer when it came out, J-Stars Victory Versus Plus, which is, it's on the PS4 and the Vita. It's out over here. It's like, obviously it's all in English, except for they don't have if you're someone who only really like watches these shows like with like an English dub kind of thing, there's no English dub voice option, like, which makes sense because there's plenty of those characters have never come over here. Like some of them are from series that don't have anime adaptations, or at least when the game came out they didn't, because there's one character, Kuro Sensei, who has a different, or Koro Sensei, who has a different voice actor in the game, because the game came out before the anime came out originally, but now this version came out after the anime adaptation of that show came out, which I watched the anime adaptation. It was like really weird hearing a completely different voice actor playing that character when I had like literally just watched the anime and then got this game.
It's funny. There are also characters who had an anime when the game came out and don't anymore, like Toriko.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's true.
In the time between the Japanese and American release, Toriko crashed and burned.
Yeah.
And is dead. Ah, stupid Toriko.
Yeah, that... My opinion on Toriko as like a concept that I only like saw as like a vague description on like Hulu, I've not changed that sounds really fucking dumb based on the characters in the game. But yeah, so basically it's a type of fighting game that doesn't really come out over here much, where like I know there's like a Gundam game that has a very similar style that I hear about sometimes that doesn't really come out over here because Gundam doesn't sell over here. But it's basically like an arena fighter. I guess a team arena fighter would be how I would explain it, where it's sort of full 3D environments, a behind-the-back kind of view. If you played some of like the modern Dragon Ball games, like Dragon Ball Xenoverse, there's some similarities in terms of like what the basic gameplay is like. But the overall, it's interesting because the game's not about, like the gameplay is not about a traditional fighting game kind of thing where you're thinking about like combo strings and like execution on special moves. It's more about this push and pull of like, basically when you decide to do an attack, you commit to doing that attack, or if you decide to block, you commit to blocking, and there's like very much a like, I'm going to attack, and then I'm going to defend, or I'm going to defend, attack, defend, attack. Like, it's very methodical in that way, and so if you're someone who's like thinking about picking up this game, like, know going in that it's a kind of fighting game that you've never played before, and it's going to take some getting used to sort of the rhythm of the game, because it probably took me a good few hours before I felt like, okay, I kind of get what this game is about. Like, you're not, like, you know, doing, like, these, like, insane 50 combo juggles or something, and, like, because there's a really generous recovery period every time you finish an attack on an enemy, assuming your attack was successful, and so you really have to get to that sense of the rhythm of the gameplay.
I agree, and I will say this, if you're someone who, like me, does not like 3D fighters, like the recent Dragon Ball games, like, I could never get into Xenoverse, because I just realized I really hate that if it's not a side view fighter, I just can't do it.
Sure.
This is the only one like that I've ever enjoyed.
Yeah, because when I compare it to Xenoverse, it is not like 100% like Xenoverse, but like the large arena sort of 3D concept is the same. But yeah, the specifics of the fighting mechanics are completely different.
I just think it's a lot deeper and better managed than a lot of those similar ones I've played.
Sure,
is what I would say.
Yeah, so I guess like where to start, like for me, the thing I really appreciated about it is that I feel like I'm like, for someone living in America, I'm kind of the perfect audience for this game, just because like I've seen the like anime series for probably over half of the characters, which is pretty hard to do. That's a lot of fucking...
That's a lot more than me.
Yeah, that's a lot, because they have what, like Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. That's probably like the most well-known over here. They've got a bunch of characters from One Piece, which I've like, One Piece is probably the biggest thing in the game that I've never seen. I think they have 4 or 5 characters from One Piece, and one of them is Luffy, and like, you've watched a bunch of One Piece stuff, and you said you don't know who the other characters are.
No, I've read like the first 20 volumes of One Piece, and I've never gotten to any of those characters.
Yeah, they've got like 3 people, I think, from Naruto. They've got the Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin. They've got Bobobo. He's in there.
He's great.
He's
a great
really fucking good addition. Yeah. They've got they've got a couple of people from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
They have Arale from Dr. Slump, which I like.
Yeah, that's cool. They have like who else do they have? I said Rurouni Kenshin. They have 2 of them. I'm trying to think of who the other big ones.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is in there.
JoJo's got Saint Seiya's in there, which I've always thought that series was fucking terrible. That character's so boring. It's like every time I see him, like, you fucking suck. Oh, they've got a couple of people from Bleach. Who that's like, I guess I'll start there. Now that I'm thinking about it, is the story mode stuff, since you never really got to do it because of the Japanese So yeah, the main mode that I played was the story mode, which is called J Adventure, and how it's kind of structured is they have 4 different sort of main sets of 3 characters that you kind of pick from that determine sort of the general story beats. Like the story stuff is really light in the game, but like the different characters you pick kind of determine what characters you're going to play and some of the characters and encounters you're going to have over the course of the story. So you basically have, there's Naruto, there's Luffy from One Piece, and then there's Toriko, who Goku is on Toriko's team. It's just like, no, like, I was like, I want to, obviously Goku's the one I most want to play as, because it's the one I'm the biggest fan of, is Dragon Ball, but I'm not going to fucking pick Toriko just to, like, have Goku on my team. So unfortunately I just passed that up, so I picked the Ichigo team, because I really like Bleach, and then Ichigo has Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, and Oga from the show called Beelzebub that I hadn't seen when I was playing the game, but I liked the characters so much in the game that I sought out the show, and the show's pretty good. Because the character,
I've heard that.
The character of Oga is basically, he's this high school delinquent who just like gets in a bunch of fights, who one day like is walking on the side of the river, or he's in a fight on the side of a river like bank, and then he just finds this baby. That the baby becomes really attached to him, and then he finds out that the baby is actually like a baby demon lord, baby Beelzebub, and who basically like he has superpowers now, and then he just gets in a bunch of fights, and that's the entire character, and it's really fucking good. So the whole story mode is basically, there's this like jump battle tournament or something that a mysterious voice from up above, who like is probably the best character in the game because he just chimes in and says random shit all the time, tells you, it's like, okay, like, go and kind of fuck shit up, we're having a big tournament. And so then you're just in an airship cruising around with like 3 of the most badass characters in anime ever, just going around and fucking shit up. And that's the entire story mode, and it's pretty actually fucking awesome. Like, I had a lot of fun doing the story mode, because there's not a lot of like the story mode's not fully voice acted, because that would be fucking insane if it was, but there is enough sort of like weird character moments and dialogue of like just all the bizarre encounters you have and all the weird fucking character pair-ups that you can end up with. It's like, you know, some of the characters that they pull are like got like stuff that I don't really have much exposure to. Like there's this like cop guy from a like comedy series over there he's just like, I think his name is Drotaro or something like that, and he's just like this weird comedy cop dude who's like, he fucking throws like bombs, and his special ultimate move is he gets yelled at by his boss in big anime letters that then fall from the sky and crush people. So it's like, it's shit like that you just constantly running into the most bizarre fucking shit. And you can pick up support characters that sort of expand the cast beyond the already like very large and very generous main cast that they have, that sort of like rounds out some of the smaller series and stuff. And yeah, it's really fucking fun.
It's really fun, and I think there's just an attention to detail on it that I appreciate so much. Like, and again, I don't know nearly as many of these series as you. I know a lot of them by reputation. Like, I know Ichigo, I know Naruto. I haven't seen those series all the way through or anything, but I know them well enough. Like, if I want to play with Ichigo, I still think it's cool.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, like, let's just say as a Dragon Ball fan, because this is both our favorite series in that game. Yeah. That is the best version of Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza I've ever played in a fighting game. Hands down, easy, no question. And I think if I were a big fan of, One Piece or something, I would probably say that about Luffy and people like that too.
Yeah, I can say as like a big fan of Bleach and like never having. I know there are Bleach games, but it's pretty old because the series is not super popular right now. That like I've never played a Bleach game, and so it's like it was something that I kind of. It's been a long time since I saw it. I kind of forgotten how much I like that series, and specifically, I really like Ichigo as a main character a lot more than like Luffy or Naruto, who are a little more kind of like bland and like one note characters to me.
Right.
The Ichigo's a little more interesting and dynamic, and I was like, oh yeah, I really love this character. Like he's fucking really cool, and like all the characters are really well represented as like a fighting character in the game. Like the way they use their special moves, and like a lot of the characters have like special power-ups and stuff that like if you like build up your stamina gauge enough, like Ichigo will go into like his hollow mask form and stuff that will alter some of his moves. Like a lot of the characters are distinct in really interesting ways and really creative ways. Just in like, like the Naruto characters sprint slightly differently than any of the other characters. That kind of represents the way that their show is animated, that sort of changes the way you have to play and stuff like that. Like I said, there's a lot of attention to detail and a lot of like really specific elements of the game just in how the characters play that's really interesting.
Yeah. definitely. But like, I just feel like each character feels so distinct. They have different weights. They have different attacks. Just like Frieza in particular was one where I played like, I've never seen a Frieza done this well, because it's just, I feel like I am Frieza with the different attacks I can do, with the way Ryusei Nakao just digs into that dialogue and the laugh and everything. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a game that just, I don't play it for long periods of time or anything. But I pick it up, I play it, and I just feel it's fun, it's joy. It's If you like these, you don't have to like a lot of the series to get something out of it. If you like a couple of the series in there, it's totally worth it, I think.
And because most of the major series have like 2 or 3 characters. It's not necessarily just the protagonist. Like usually there's like a protagonist and the main villain from each of the series, with like the bigger ones having like 1 or 2 other people maybe.
Absolutely. And yeah, I might have to. I've been thinking about getting the English version for Vita, and now having heard you talk about it, I might, if it comes on sale, I'll definitely do that. And just because I'd like to go through that story mode and stuff.
And it's definitely, it's a game that's like really fully featured too. Like there's a bunch of different modes. Like I barely touched. There's like this Victory Road mode that seems kind of cool. That, like it kind of like gives you specific challenges and stuff. There's an arcade mode. There's obviously like just like multiplayer battle and stuff like that.
Have you played any split screen on it?
No.
I don't know if they changed it for the English version. That game has the weirdest split screen I've ever seen, though. If you do 2 people, what it does is it splits the screen in half vertically, but it doesn't do the thing where it like just renders it as a vertical strip and you're playing it. It still renders it in 2 16:9 boxes. But if you take 2 16:9 boxes and put them like horizontally on a screen together, they're really small. So it's 2 16:9 boxes and then these like, fun cartoon borders around them. But that's how it does it.
That's fucking crazy. It's almost really kind of like bizarre. What like Halo 3 did, where like depending on how many split screen people you had, it would change the aspect ratio.
But this is even smaller
like,
than
bars.
that. So it's crazy. Weird. The other cool feature that game had, in Japan at least, I don't know if they kept it for this one, is you could bring in music that was on your system. And
I don't think you can do that on the PS4 version.
Well, the PS4 doesn't. You can't put music on your PS4, can you?
You can now.
They have added that? Okay.
Yeah, with like USB you can.
Okay. Well, on the PS3 at least, which is where I have the Japanese version, you could do that. And so I just imported a bunch of, like I got Head Chala in there, and I was able to put that on a fight, and that was fun.
Yeah, because you can, when you like go into like the arcade modes and stuff like that, you can't do it in the story mode for obvious reasons, but you can alter like on like specific stages, you can alter like what the stage music is, and then you can alter what the burst music is.
Yes, and the burst, that's what I would do.
Yeah, because that's basically when like you get like you fill up your burst meter, and then you like, if in PS4 you like push it on the right stick, and then if your like partner does it at like around the same time, you go into your burst mode, which is when you can use your ultimate attack. And when you go into burst mode, it like zooms in on your characters all standing in a circle, like doing like a anime power up pose. Yeah, and then like your burst music kicks in. It's pretty good.
Nice. Well, you know what? While we're on the subject of Dragon Ball,
all right,
I got 2 things. To go on. So one smaller thing is, speaking of games, they just released the demo for the 3DS in the US of Extreme Butoden, which is the new Dragon Ball Z game coming out in October here. It came out in Japan back in March. It sounds like it was pretty good, but there were indications from when it came out that it would get a release here, which is actually rare. Portable Dragon Ball games have not gotten releases in the US for years now. So this is pretty cool. But anyway, it's a 2D fighting game, side view kind of thing. And I am loving that demo so much that I'm mad I got to play it this early, because I have to wait until October 20th to play the fucking game. I'm angry about it. Like, it's made by Arc System Works, and the last Dragon Ball game they did Supersonic Warriors 1 for the GBA and 2 for the DS. And Supersonic Warriors 2 for the DS, which is really old now. That's one of my favorite Dragon Ball fighting games. It's really fast, it's really fluid, it's got this great kind of almost hand-drawn cartoon art style. It's easy to pick up, but kind of it has a depth to it. And this new one, Extreme Butoden, even more.
Because Arc is the company that makes the Persona 4 Arena games. They also make like Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue is the stuff they're most famous for.
Yeah, and so, like, I do like fighting games. I'm not super into the heavily technical ones like Street Fighter, but I do enjoy fighting games, and I enjoy the side view ones. I don't like 3D ones like the recent Dragon Ball games. Like, I mean,
to be fair, like calling like the 3D Dragon Ball games like fighting games.
Yeah, they're not very good.
Yeah, a bit of a stretch.
But I will say this: like when Xenoverse came out this year, I was really excited for it. I know you liked that game. Yeah. I really didn't. I couldn't. I liked everything around the fighting, but the actual fighting system, I really hated.
Yeah, I don't think the fighting system is great, especially because like at a certain point, once you unlock Super Saiyan, it's like the entire game just becomes Super Saiyan to use special attacks.
Because all I want out of a Dragon Ball fighting game is a nice, traditional kind of 2D fighter with a good selection of characters and a good amount of depth and a good use of the license. And this is exactly what I want. The demo only has 4 playable characters, but the way the game is done is you have your playable character set, which is actually pretty small. I think the roster is only 25 characters total, which is kind of focused for a Dragon Ball game.
Yes.
But then they've got about 100 Z assist characters, and this is kind of like Marvel vs. Capcom or something like that, where you make a team and you pick you can actually arrange it however you want, but I think ideally you would do 2 main fighters and then 2 Z assist characters. And on the touchscreen, when you want to use a Z assist character, you click on their picture. That's nice and big, so you can just do it with your thumb. Yeah. And so, if you have Great Saiyaman, he will come in and do an attack. Or if you have Tao Pai Pai, he'll come down.
Nice.
He'll come down with the giant rod he rides on in that one part of the series and just hit them. Or if you do
fuck yeah, Tao Pai Pai.
Or you can do the turtle, and he'll come in and crawl under them and stop the enemy from moving.
I wonder what the deepest cut of a Z assist character they have, the most specific.
I forget. I looked at the roster and I'd heard about this and I listened to a podcast review of it, and it sounds like there's a lot of them and it sounds like fun. So and some of those Z assist characters you might want to fight as, but I honestly think at the end of the day it's a better use of those characters because my favorite Dragon Ball character is Mr. Satan. I love Mr. Satan. I don't need to fight as Mr. Satan.
Isn't how in every single Dragon Ball game that you fight in, he has a fucking jetpack?
Yeah, it makes
sort of solve the problem of the fact that, hey, he can't fight.
I'm honestly much happier with this, where he's a Z assist, and I put him in there, and he comes in and does something fun.
Yeah,
that's cool. So anyway, I'm loving Extreme Butoden, the demo, so much that I'm really sad where I keep booting it up, and I've played it out so much because it's only got the 4 characters, I think 10 Z assists, and 5 stages.
Who are the 4 characters they have?
It's Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, and Majin Buu. Which is actually a good variety, because that's the one thing that's good, is because it's got a small main roster, they all fight very uniquely.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the fun. Majin Buu is big and heavy, but he can stretch himself. And then obviously Gohan is really fast, and you can do this thing where you jump in the air and do the kick and stuff. But there's all this stuff, there's so much good attention to detail, stuff that they've taken right from the anime, where when Vegeta goes to use the Big Bang move, or the Final Flash, he does the exact hand motion and move around and facial expression he does in that episode of the series.
Nice.
So just things like that they've gotten perfect. And I'm excited to see how they work in more stuff. Some of the stuff from Resurrection F, the new movie, is in there. Not yet, but I know it will be. You can play as the new blue hair Goku.
Yeah.
Which will be fun when the full game comes out. But that comes out in October. I'm so psyched for it. And I had left all my DS cartridges up here at the apartment, which I've been down in Golden for a couple days. So I'm going to go grab Supersonic Warriors 2 and play that a little bit more so I can just get that fixed. Because it's a different kind of game, but that's a good one too, and that I can still play. So. But speaking of Dragon Ball,
yes,
bigger news. So over the last week, Funimation did their theatrical run of Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, which is the new movie. It took them a long time to get the previous movie, Battle of Gods, over here because of issues with Fox, which holds the international rights.
Fucking Dragon Ball Evolution, fucking shit up for everybody.
Years
after that piece of shit landed in our laps, still make like we're in our day.
Yep, so they held Battle of Gods back forever, because Funimation would do it immediately if they could, because that's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
And those people really love the series, too. So, anyway, but Battle of Gods did finally come out here last summer, did phenomenally in just a tiny theatrical release, and then it was Fox was like, oh, I guess we shouldn't hold this up anymore. Yeah. So Resurrection F got a nice, speedy release here. It only came out in Japan back in March, so very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the time you need for dubbing and things like that. So anyway, came out, had a run in August, and when we got back from Austin, my brother and I got to go check that out at the Draft House here. And that was, for one, that was so cool to see Dragon Ball Z on a screen that big and that good of quality. Because when I saw Battle of Gods, I had seen it at the Belmar Cinemark here in Denver, and they just had a satellite projection of it, and it looked like a shitty video stream. It was awful. It was fun because of the crowd,
sure,
and everyone was having fun with the movie, but it looked like I could have put in a DVD and it would have looked better. It was terrible. But here, at the Draft House, they had a nice 4K projection of it. It looked really good, and that's a really good Dragon Ball movie.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to see it.
It's
I'll
really
have to wait till it comes out on home video release.
Should come out in October, and it's really fun. I think there's been a lot of people online who are pissed off at it because that's what people online do.
Yeah, because I don't Dragon Ball has a very large fan base over here, so it's everyone wants. And Dragon Ball is also a really diverse sort of franchise in terms of like the things that it does.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone has something else that they want Dragon Ball to do, and so it's like either you're like, yay, Battle of Gods, and like all like this fun like the character stuff, and it's all funny and goofy, and then it's like, oh, what, Resurrection of F is only fighting. It's like Dragon Ball does all this stuff,
right? And here's the thing, like I've heard it described this way, and I totally agree. It's Resurrection F is like one of the original 13 Toei DBZ movies, but done really well, because it's written by the man himself, Akira Toriyama. He wrote it beginning to end, and it's got great production values. So, you know, those original 13 DBZ movies were very hit and miss. Some of them are a lot of fun, some of them are interminable. You know,
some of them are bio-Broly.
Yes, which is in a league all by itself. Yeah. But, you know, I think what characterizes those 13 is that they're not really high stakes. There's a villain comes in, they fight him, they beat him.
And they're all just, I mean, it's basically like a filler episode turned into a movie,
yes.
A filler arc turned into a movie, in the sense that it's like we have a villain who's basically a carbon copy of one of the other villains from the franchise, probably the most recently popular one. And then the transformation that they use, like the events that transpire to defeat the villain, is basically the carbon copy of like the last thing that just happened. You know?
Right.
It's basically every one of those movies is just that.
But I will say, you know, the big thing missing from those is I do think the authorial flair of Akira Toriyama, because he has such a voice. And that's why the filler often isn't as good either, because that voice is missing. But that voice, as it was in Battle of Gods, is here so strong. There are so many fun things about it. And even when it gets into fighting, and this is a much more fighting-heavy movie than Battle of Gods was, it's well done, and it's smartly done, and it's done with a good eye for character development. And I think the movie resolves a little too quickly. It's got a little too much of a Deus Ex Machina ending. And
what? Dragon Ball Z having a Deus Ex Machina ending? That never happened.
And part of that is just comparison, because Battle of Gods has such an interesting ending. It's such a diversion for the series, or divergence for the series. But I also think, like, the main difference, I would say, just if we're going to complain about something, is that I thought Battle of Gods was unusually thematically focused for a Dragon Ball kind of thing. Because I think the arcs can be, but often, you know, just the one-shot movies or episodes sometimes, they're just for fun or something.
Yeah.
But I thought that one had a really actually good character arc for Goku about humility, basically.
Yeah.
And who Goku is and why he fights and why he does these things. And it was a very clear authorial, you know, reclaiming of that character.
Yeah, and like in opening of the door for like things to do with that franchise in the future, in terms of like we're now like moving forward with like not just Goku, but like Vegeta also had like a really remarkable character arc, and like moving forward with the franchise in that sense.
Yes,
this is really what Battle of Gods felt like to me.
And while Resurrection F makes really good use of capitalizing on the things that were set up in that film, like having Beerus and Whis in there, and like having Vegeta and Goku kind of in a slightly new place in their friendship because of things that have happened, and just their own pursuit for power and that sort of thing, I do think it misses whatever that thematic link is. There's something introduced in the movie thematically about Goku and Vegeta's respective faults and the ways they could overcome them by working together, and that never really pays off. Like, I think the movie is pointing towards a good thematic revelation for its whole time, and then you get to the last 5 minutes, and it kind of ignores it. It's like the movie didn't quite know what it was about.
Sure, yeah.
But it's still so much fun. Like, one of the best things is if you read the manga Toriyama did the same year Battle of Gods came out, which is like 3 years ago now, Jocko the Galactic Patrolman, Jocko is in this movie, and it's his first time being animated, and he's so fun, and Toriyama has so much fun using that character and just sliding him into this existing universe. It's great, and there's a lot of stuff where, like, this has a smaller supporting cast than Battle of Gods did. He was clearly very selective about, we don't have time for everyone this time, but, like, you know, I think Piccolo and Tenshin Han and Master Roshi and Kuririn are all in there, and so is Jocko, and they get to kind of do the first round of fighting with Frieza's forces, and it's one of the best sequences they've ever done, of getting to showcase people who aren't Goku and Vegeta.
Yeah. Like, Tenshinhan's like, I get to do something! The last time I did something this series was when I hit Cell with my fucking Tri-Beam or whatever. Like, so it's been years since Tenshinhan did anything useful.
Yep, and it's a really good use of Frieza, because Frieza's really well done in here. He's actually kind of interesting. More than I would have thought a resurrected villain would be.
Sure, yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And so I have not seen the Japanese version yet, obviously, because this was just the dub. But this was a really good dub, too. Like, I think when Battle of Gods came out here, I said, you know, I was honestly kind of taken aback by just how good the dub was for that movie. And building on what they did in Kai, but taking that even further, I think.
Yeah.
And with this one, it's another step, where I think they just keep getting better at this.
And they have the Kai Frieza dude, right?
That's what I was going to say. That's the main reason this is so good, because Chris Ayers, who plays Frieza in America now, he is fantastic. He has so much fun in this movie with that part. And I think Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat as Goku and Vegeta play off him so well in this movie. And it's a blast. Like, and I never, because Frieza was like one of the worst voices in the original dub of the series.
Yeah.
I never thought I would enjoy going to see English Frieza in a theater. But no, they get him. And a part of it is actually, it's not just the voice, it's the writing. And I actually heard an interview with Chris Sabat where he talked about this, that they didn't even really understand Frieza when they first tried to dub the series.
Yes, yeah.
And they just wrote him wrong. He said, and he admitted that. Like, we didn't get how he was so kind of eloquent in how he talked. And now they get the writing so perfect. And I could imagine every one of these lines coming out of Ryusei Nakao's mouth, too.
Yeah.
But it's one of the few cases where I can say the Japanese voice, and that is a legendary Japanese voice of Ryusei Nakao's Frieza, is just iconic. And the English one kind of goes toe-to-toe with it. And that's pretty amazing at this point to have that.
Yeah. Like, because I watched Kai around when that came out, and, like, that, like... Because they also, with Kai, they adjusted the writing of the character as well to fit, like, the new performance. And, like, they nailed Frieza in English. Like,
they did.
It was really good.
I also have to give props to the new Bulma, because Bulma has some fun stuff in this movie. And it's her first real big showcase, because Bulma's not big in Z, so the Kai recast almost didn't matter. It would be better if they redid the original Dragon Ball dub and we could have her there, because that's where Bulma's a big character. But she has some fun stuff in this, and she's really good. Like, she's very, again, it's very similar to the Japanese voice, but its own thing, too. So, it was a lot of fun. And the other thing I should say is the animation. It's probably the best Dragon Ball Z has ever looked. The fight scenes in this are incredible. And I thought the fight scenes in Battle of Gods were great. There's not a ton of them, but I think they had a good sense of kind of weight and impact to them. Yeah. And this film takes that even further. And there's just some fight scenes in here that kind of blew my mind. Like, seeing it on the big screen was really kind of revelatory that way. There's also just some beautiful backgrounds. The color schemes are great. And goddammit, I like Goku's new transformation. Does it make complete sense? No, it's Dragon Ball. Why are you trying to make sense out of it?
It's like, and at this point, like, if you want to continue doing Dragon Ball, you kind of have to stretch to do new transformations. But you need to do new transformations. Like, you can't...
And when you see it in context, it's like... That and Golden Frieza, who I'm sure you've all seen the pictures of, they make more sense in context because there's a very particular color scheme to the movie that's built around blues, basically, and purples and things like that. And so they look cool within the color scheme of the film. And that's fun. So
it just makes you wonder, like, where's it going to go in the future? Because obviously this is not stopping now. The Dragon Ball is back.
Well, have you seen any of Super yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's good. I've only watched the first 2 episodes. There's 5 now. I need to catch up on it. But they're just retelling Battle of Gods and then Resurrection F. And it'll be interesting to see how they do those, because those movies clearly had a healthy budget behind them.
Yes, and I have not watched any of the episodes, but from some of the places on the internet I go, I've seen some screenshots that people have taken of, like, maybe when the animation quality is not at its highest.
Yeah.
Which maybe it looks like it get pretty bad. Like, I don't know about, like, the context in the middle of the episode. People might be making, like, a mountain out of a molehill, but...
I think people are making a mountain out of a molehill, because, one, this is just how anime looks. All anime has up days and down days. It's done on a weekly schedule. Yeah. It's super hectic and frantic. It's how it works. If you go back and look at the original Dragon Ball Z, good God, there are awful-looking episodes.
Sure, yeah.
There just are. And in the middle of great arcs, too. You can go from, like, I believe, and this was really funny when they did it in Kai, the first of the episodes where Trunks confronts Frieza is one of their best animation days, and the subsequent one is one of their worst, and then when you stitch that together in Kai, it was really jarring.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought Super actually looked above par for an anime in this day and age. Of that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think, because you said you only saw the first 2 episodes. Like, I think the most of the stuff that I have seen was, like, from, like, I want to say episode 4 or 5. Yeah. Like, there was a specific fight with Beerus that, like, some of the screenshots were pretty spectacularly bad. Like, like the context is important.
And I had seen those screenshots too. I'll wait until I see the episodes, but I'll say it had its good qualities where I expected there to be good qualities in the animation, and it had its bad qualities where I would expect them. The fighting so far is kind of slow and janky, and that's how, frankly, a lot of anime fighting looks on TV. And back in the original DBZ sometimes too. I'm sure when we get to the actual, like, Super Saiyan God Goku fight, they will have saved up, some time to do that justice. Because that's how it's usually done. But we'll see. It's worth watching. It's fun. The second episode, Vegeta takes his family on a trip to an amusement park. It's a masterpiece.
Nice.
Yes. Just a true masterpiece.
Yeah. I find, like, their decision to, like, make the beginning of this new Dragon Ball series to adapt, like, the movies basically into the show kind of weird. Puzzling. Yeah.
And I'll wait to see, because maybe they'll do it really well and it'll be fun. But yeah, and they're doing them differently too. Like in Super, Bulma's birthday party happens on a cruise ship, not at Capsule Corps, which would change a lot of things, obviously. Yeah. So we'll see. I agree. I mean, it's the only time where I've ever actually gotten annoyed about Dragon Ball canon, because, as I've said before, if you're worried about Dragon Ball canon, they destroyed the moon twice. Shut up.
Yeah, this is a lot of... They did a lot of things twice.
But it is a weird thing now where you have two movies done by Toriyama that you would think of as part of the larger quote-unquote canon, for lack of a better term, and then you have an alternate version that's going to go beyond with the story. Yeah. And it's like, well, wait, which one? That's where it gets head-scratching.
Yeah, which is kind of like why it's like... Like, I'm going to watch Dragon Ball Super at some point. I just want enough of it to accumulate because I don't want to watch an anime like week by week, because I'll never manage to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, but some of my enthusiasm for it is definitely sapped by the idea of like, well, I don't just want to watch like the movie story done in a TV format. It's because like the movie was the movie, and I really enjoyed the movie. Yeah, I don't like. I want to see where they're heading in the future with these characters. I don't want to see like what they already did with them done again in another format. It's kind of silly.
Well, I just talked about a movie, Sean. So why don't we talk about another movie?
All right.
The only movie I think we've both seen on my list is Ant-Man.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Ant-Man? We always talk about Marvel movies. This was kind of a big question mark this year. Because the trailers weren't very good, I think we both agreed, and we weren't. And I think a lot of people were not sure how's this going to do. You know,
Ant-Man's maybe not like the traditionally most interesting character that Marvel has on top of it.
But with that in mind, what did you think of the film?
I liked it. Yeah, like I don't think it's not like one of the best Marvel movies ever. Like it's not on par with like a Captain America 2 or Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing. But I think like it was a solid Marvel movie. Like there wasn't anything in it that I was like, you know, like some of the Marvel movies, like Iron Man 3 in particular, there's like some things that they do with that movie that I really disliked, even if a lot of the movie I thought was really well done. With Ant-Man, it's like, I guess I would say it's like a very inoffensive superhero movie. Like, and it's got some moments that are really good. I think I like that they made it basically kind of what Marvel has been doing in general with a lot of their movies, which is sort of like making it a superhero movie tied with another genre, like the way that Captain America 2 was like a superhero movie tied with like a political thriller. And this is a superhero movie tied with a heist movie. And I thought like that aspect of the movie was really well done, and there's like a lot of moments that I really enjoyed, but nothing about it like really shined in a way that I was like, oh, this is amazing.
I would mostly agree with that. I think I might have liked it more than you. Because I really enjoyed it, and I was kind of taken aback by how much I enjoyed parts of it. I agree in total, it's not so substantial that it feels like revelatory, but I kind of liked that it wasn't, because the last couple of Marvel movies have been so big, and I think Age of Ultron really did suffer from being as big as it tried to be. And I liked Age of Ultron, but it had problems. And I liked this more than Age of Ultron. Definitely this was my favorite of the two Marvel movies this year. And part of that was it just felt very different from a lot of other Marvel stuff. It has a lot of the main, Marvel things to it, where you have the character crossovers, and you have the general sense of tone, and the kind of lightness to it. But then I think, like, for instance, visually, this is one of my favorite Marvel movies, because I think the way Peyton Reed and Edgar Wright, who isn't credited for it, but still did all the previs on it, did all the stuff with Ant-Man himself, when he goes small, and how those sequences are done. I thought that was kind of jaw-dropping. I thought it was so well choreographed. The effects were so good. Because how they shot it was all with what they called their macro unit, where they would get special cameras and just shoot things small. So none of that's CGI. That's all. Those are all. Paul Rudd would be against a green screen, but they would then composite in real stuff. And it looked really cool. It was kind of like the action movie version of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Sure, yeah.
And I think it was just done really well. And I kind of like the audacity of, we're going to do our big final sequence in his daughter's bedroom. Yeah. And it actually became pretty exciting. And
like that's definitely true, that they made really good use of Ant-Man's power. Specifically, the shrinking and growing stuff was really well done.
That stuff, I thought the control of the ants was great, and I thought the core relationships of the film between Scott Lang, Hank Pym, and Evangeline Lilly. Yeah. What's her name? Janet Van Dyne? Hope Van Dyne?
No, that's Hope.
Yeah, Janet's her mother.
Janet's the mom, yeah.
Janet's the mom we're going to meet in Ant-Man 2, clearly. Yes. Anyway.
Battle of the Wasps.
Yes. But I thought that was such a great core relationship. I thought Michael Douglas fit into this world surprisingly well. I love that we have Hank Pym in there now and he's like this elder statesman of the Marvel Universe. That's great.
Also, that fucking opening sequence where they, like, digitally de-aged him.
Holy crap.
That was, like, because, you know, obviously that technology has been sort of, like, kicking around a while in movies with, like, the creepy Jeff Bridges in Tron 2 and stuff.
Yeah, but that's creepy. This looked good.
Yeah, this was really good. Like, to the point where I didn't realize until, like, after I was, like, saw some articles about it talking about the effects, I was like, fuck! That was, like, all digital? Like, I thought they just did an incredible makeup job. Like, I could not tell that they digitally de-aged him.
Well,
like,
because
it was fucking really good.
It's not just that it's young Michael Douglas. It's that it's Michael Douglas at an age where he did his most famous work.
Yeah, so it looks like Michael Douglas from, like, the movies that you've seen Michael Douglas in.
Wall Street was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Specifically, yeah. And I love that they brought back John Slattery as Tony Stark's dad.
Yeah, yeah.
What's his name? Richard Stark.
Yeah.
I want to say Richard Stark, and for some reason I thought that was wrong.
Nope.
Anyway, so yeah, that was a cool scene. I liked the characters. The villain sucked, but you know that's a Marvel thing.
Yeah.
They need to figure that out.
To be fair, I literally cannot name a single Ant-Man villain. Yeah. I don't know. I've always thought that Yellow Jacket was just another Ant-Man identity. I don't know if that's actually a villain from the comic or they just made him up.
Well, and here's the thing. I think in theory that was a good kind of idea they had floating around for that villain. It's very similar to Iron Man 1, but I think it works. I just think they pushed for certain character development things that aren't earned, like his relationship with Hank Pym. And it's like, I don't know anything about your relationship with Hank Pym, so why should I care about this? You're just a faceless villain. And it's too bad when they cast someone like Corey Stoll, who's a really good actor, for a very thankless role like that.
Yeah. It's also tricky with Ant-Man that, like, it makes me wonder what they're going to do if they're going to make, like, with sequels for Ant-Man, like, how do you have Ant-Man fight someone who doesn't have the same powers as Ant-Man, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, that seems like that would be really tricky.
Well, I like the implication of how we're going to see him used in Civil War.
Yeah.
Where he'll be their infiltrator guy or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I did like that this was smaller scale Marvel. I think, again, visually, it's one of the more interesting movies they've done. Not just with the ant stuff, but I just thought overall it was well shot. It just had a nice sense of tone. It was legitimately funny. I thought there was a lot of good funny
definitely.
stuff. And, you know, I think Paul Rudd fits into this universe really well. Everyone did. Evangeline Lilly is great, and I hope she gets more of her own headlining stuff in the future. Because it was kind of nice. It's like, oh, thank God, you're finally in a movie that's using your talents, and it's not The Hobbit.
Yeah.
You know, because, boy, she was wasted in that. It's too bad, because she's trying so hard in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to like Tariel so bad, but they gave her such a bad story.
Yeah.
So, this was good. This was better. And, yeah, so Ant-Man was a good superhero movie.
Yes. Then, I was just wanting to, shout out to fucking Falcon in the middle act. That was a really awesome scene. And it was like, it made up for the fact that they didn't put Falcon in the climax for fucking Age of Ultron. It was like, where is Falcon? He was in the movie earlier. What the fuck is he doing? It's like, here he is. Like, we've got a good little Falcon action scene.
And I thought that was one of the better things Marvel's ever done in terms of a comic book-esque crossover thing. Where Falcon, it's like in a comic, Falcon would just walk on the page, and that's easy because anyone can draw him. And it's the same here in the movie. He's just there. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and like it fits into the story. It's like not a distraction. Like it's a really good, because also there's nothing else in the movie that sort of like would be able to like set up a middle movie action scene that you just really need for the pacing of a movie like this. So it's like it's a really good way to just like, fuck it, we can just do this. Like we can just use this character really quick, have like this nice little action scene, and then move on. Yeah.
So can we make fun of a superhero movie for a minute?
Sure.
I didn't see Fantastic Four.
Yeah, neither did I.
Nobody saw Fantastic Four, but can we make fun of it for a second?
Sure, yeah.
When was the last time a movie this big bombed that hard?
That's like, what, like, did it bomb worse than John Carter?
Yes, because John Carter made, like, that's the thing. So the big bombs recently have been Disney bombs with like John Carter and the Lone Ranger. But the thing people forget about those movies is those movies actually did pretty big money. It's just that their budgets were so out of control. No, Fantastic Four opened at like $23 million. That is a bomb we haven't seen on a scale like this in a while.
And like it's sad when your like big budget superhero movie is like in the same area of like your graph as like the limited release Dragon Ball Z movie that came out like in like 2 theaters for like 1 day.
That's no joke. Yeah. Resurrection F did about that much money. I mean, it's crazy. And I just think it's kind of funny because I don't think we're on the verge of the superhero bubble bursting or anything, but I do think it shows that if you don't do it right, people aren't going to care.
Yeah, if you're just making a movie to try to keep the rights to the characters, people are maybe going to tell.
And I think we've seen a lot of evidence of this. Like, there's the obvious examples like Green Lantern, but then there's the less obvious ones like Amazing Spider-Man 2, which made a shit ton of money, but it was just so bad and
it just killed everything about that franchise.
And created such bad audience, will towards it. It robbed all goodwill towards that character, which is dangerous. And I just think it's interesting because everything I've heard is the movie is awful too, and I've looked at the plot, and it's basically one long first act. It's all origin story, and there's one 2-minute fight with Doom at the end.
Yeah, everything I've seen about what the movie is makes it seem like the most unappealing fucking superhero movie ever.
And it's just and you're right, it's like when you make a movie to keep the rights rather than making a movie for any artistic purpose. And I do think the saddest thing about it is that this probably permanently salts the earth for the Fantastic Four for a while on film. Because Fox is still saying they're going to make that sequel. They're not going to make that sequel. But they're going to do whatever they can to keep the rights because it's this and X-Men. And if they get rid of this, all they got left is X-Men. And X-Men is probably...
Seems like X-Men's getting ready to end. I can't imagine that can continue forever.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman seems pretty serious about he's going to stop playing Wolverine.
Right.
He's been saying that for a while, but he's this time I really believe that this is kind of his last round for these movies. And once you don't have fucking Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine, how long can that franchise really last?
Well, yeah, I mean, Apocalypse is actually going to be a big test, I think, because it'll be because First Class did decently, but that's the only big movie without Hugh Jackman that there's been a test for. He's in all the other ones prominently. So, Days of Future Past, he's front and center on the poster with Jennifer Lawrence. So, I don't know how long. If Apocalypse does really well, maybe this thing has legs.
And if they're able to set up some the new characters as new old characters, I guess, as being able to carry that franchise forward.
It's just it's in a weird situation. So while I would love to see Marvel do some nice Fantastic Four stuff, because I didn't see this movie, no skin off my back. But Marvel can't just turn around and do another Fantastic Four movie now.
Yeah.
Even because Spider-Man is even a different thing, because Spider-Man is much more inherently popular.
Yeah, it's a much easier character to use than the Fantastic Four.
Here's my favorite thing about the new Fantastic Four movie, though.
Yeah.
Is that it's made everyone go back and look at the original Fantastic Four movies and be like, you know what, they weren't that bad. And you know what, you're right, they weren't that bad. They're not good, but they had the right tone. They had their heart in the right place. They were done ineptly. Some of the casting was off, although some of the casting was very good, I will contend. That's where we met Chris Evans. Come on. And, but I think it's kind of funny that you can go from that, which was the right kind of movie done wrong, to this, which is the wrong kind of movie done poorly.
Yeah.
I still don't get the instinct to do dark, dour Fantastic Four.
Yeah, it is the worst fucking Marvel characters to do that for. You could do dark, dour Spider-Man better than you could do dark, dour fucking Fantastic Four.
As evidenced by the first Amazing Spider-Man, which wasn't that bad.
Yeah, exactly. Doing super serious. I'm not 100% sure if this is true because I feel like people would talk about it more, but I just saw a couple of tweets and comments saying that in the movie, the catchphrase for thing, clobbering time, comes from him being abused by his older brother.
Yes, that happens. It's in the first scene of the movie. His brother beats him and says it's clobbering time. I've heard a bunch about that.
As soon as you do that, as soon as you turn this character who's this really... I mean, obviously the thing is the most angsty character out of all of them, but he's also the most fun character out of the cast. As soon as you turn his fucking catchphrase, which is it's clobbering time, which is supposed to be used for fuck yeah, we're gonna have a big awesome action scene. That's what it's clobbering time is for. As soon as you turn that into a thing about physical abuse, you fucked up everything about what you were doing. You have just killed this movie the second that fucking scene was written. Put ink onto page. It's it's done. It's over. What the fuck are you thinking? Who
are
does
you?
that? Yeah, let it be even the Ang Lee Hulk movie didn't have the fucking gall to have Hulk smash come from his dad beating him, you know? There's some things that you just don't fucking do, you know?
Well, and have you heard the other things they do with the Thing in the movie?
I mean, isn't he's turned into a military weapon or something, right? Yeah.
Well, the whole plot, it's only an 80-minute movie. And it takes 45 minutes, I read, for them to actually become, get their powers. Yeah. And then when they do, there's a year time jump where Reed Richards just runs away and abandons his friends, who aren't really his friends. That's the other thing. They have no pre-existing relationships.
Yeah,
which
other than him and Ben, I think. Yeah. They're, from what I understand of the plot, they're pulling mostly from Ultimate Fantastic Four.
But I've also heard of stuff Ben and Sue don't have a single dialogue exchange in the whole film. Stuff like that. It's about family, and they missed that whole thing.
Yeah.
It would be like Spider-Man without Uncle Ben. They just don't get
or
it.
It would be like with Spider-Man without someone like telling him with great power comes great responsibility. Right. Like, who would do that?
Well, Amazing Spider-Man kind of did it, but they had their other versions. So at least they got the message across.
It's like they tried it without actually doing it.
Yeah, it was bad. But anyway. Can I make fun of one other movie?
Sure, go ahead.
This one I actually saw. Terminator Genesis? That was a bomb. I mean, to be fair, that was also a giant bomb, but it didn't bomb quite as hard as Fantastic Four.
But it seems like Terminator movies must be done now, right? Like
they have to be.
Yeah, with this one bombing, like I can't imagine them trying to bring this back.
Let's play one of our favorite games here on the podcast.
Okay.
Where we try to explain the plot of something incomprehensible.
Sure.
So I'm going to try to explain the story of Terminator Genesis.
Go ahead.
All right.
John Connor, I'll get you started.
John Connor, it starts in the future. John Connor rescues Kyle Reese as like a little kid, which makes the ages all wrong, but whatever. And then they become best friends, even though he's like 20 years older than Kyle Reese. So it's really bizarre. And that's even weirder when you consider that he's telling Kyle to go fuck his mother. Yeah. And he met Kyle as like a little kid. That'd be weird. You know?
Dude, John Connor is a weird dude.
He is a weird dude. But anyway, so they're fighting. They're on like the last day. They're going to win the war. And they find the time machine. It's basically just a very rote retelling of the backstory of Terminator Genesis, of the Terminator series.
Yeah.
But then they get there, and as Kyle is getting naked and getting ready to go in the time machine, Doctor Who comes up. It's Matt Smith. And he walks
I forgot
up.
He's in that movie.
Yeah. I forgot, too, because he has, like, one line. But anyway, he comes up, and he, like, karate chops John Connor. And then Kyle Reese is like, no! And then gets sent into the past. And then they do a bunch of recreations.
That's what they use Matt Smith for?
He's in one other scene.
Okay. And then, like, it would be great if, like, that's literally all, like, he's not even introduced as a character or anything. He just walks on screen, karate chops John Connor, and sets, like, the villainous plot in motion. Yep. And it's just Doctor Who. Like, it's just the Doctor. Like, he just showed up. He's trying to, like, fix all this time bullshit.
I will say there's very
get his hands dirty.
It's very clear he was cast for something bigger, and that's just not in the movie. Yeah. Like, it was clearly cut out. But anyway, So he goes back in time, and then there's a bunch of recreations of scenes from Terminator 1, like the Terminator going up to Bill Paxton and taking his clothes, but then the old Arnie Terminator comes and kills the young Terminator and stops that.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I think he maybe does. Anyway.
He must at some point in the movie.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
But anyway, then Kyle Reese is being chased through that clothing store by, like in the first movie, but now it's a T-1000 chasing him. And the actor playing the T-1000 is the only guy in this whole movie who kind of gets it, I want to say, because he's like, that's a good Terminator actor. Like, whoever that guy is, I don't know his name, but I would like to see him as an actual Terminator in something. Anyway, it's kind of like the random Terminators they would have in the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah.
Like, you're a good Terminator, dude.
Yeah, there is a certain quality to an actor that makes them a good Terminator.
Yeah, anyway. But then Sarah Connor comes in with a truck and says, come with me if you want to live. And at that point, I'm just like, I want to...
And that's when you take, like, your 20th shot
in
the, like, how many references to, like, dialogue references can we make to old Terminator movies in this fucking movie? How can we, like, ironically, in our, like, time travel movie, just not be able to escape our own fucking past, you know?
Yeah. All right, so Kyle goes with Sarah Connor, but even though she's clearly a badass, she's ripped, she's got the gun, she's got body armor on, he will not trust her to do any of the fighting, and he keeps fucking things up for them because of that. That's annoying.
And does he keep on like really pathetically trying to make it with her, just like hitting on her? Because he knows he sleeps with her. Like it's his fucking destiny.
No,
because that's the Terminator movie I would make. Is about how Kyle Reese is like a big fucking loser who's like he just really wants to get laid. And he doesn't know how to set it up.
I'll talk about their relationship later because it's funny. But anyway, and then also she's got old Arnie with them, and she calls him Pops, and he won't trust her that Pops is a good Terminator either. So Kyle Reese is a fucking asshole. He doesn't get it. And anyway,
that's unfortunate for like one of my favorite like sort of action movie protagonists ever.
Oh well, let me say this. Then I'll go into this right now.
Okay.
The actor playing Kyle Reese is Jai Courtney. Jai Courtney is a bad actor. Has no charisma whatsoever. He was also played John McClane's son in A Good Day to Die Hard, and he's awful in that. He's awful in this. And it looks like he's trying, but he's not cut out for this. And it's
Michael Bain is a pretty hard fucking act to follow in Terminator 1. Like, he was really good in that movie.
But they didn't even get someone with personality. Like, this is just generic Call of Duty lughead. And I wouldn't even say...
Which is like the exact opposite of who Kyle Reese is.
Yeah, in fact, characterization-wise, he's nothing like Kyle Reese. Like, Kyle Reese is a twitchy ball of neuroses because he has deep PTSD. There's none of that in this. He's just a generic soldier dude. And the guy playing John Connor is even worse. And that's Jason Clarke, who's actually a pretty decent actor, and their John Connor is awful in this. Anyway, so what happens is, let's see. So they go back to their home base that Arnie has set up, and they kill the T-1000 with like liquid nitrogen or something, blah, blah, blah. Then,
hasta la vista, baby.
Then it turns out the Terminator and Sarah Connor, he saved Sarah as a little girl.
Yes.
And they've created a time machine together. So they can go into the future.
Wait. How the fuck did they make a time machine?
I don't know.
How the fuck did Sarah Connor and a fucking T-800 make a fucking time machine? Shouldn't that be a really goddamn hard thing to do?
Yeah, there's technobabble about it. Honestly, I was already kind of tuning out at this point. I believe part of the technobabble is that they take the chip out of the other T-800's head, the other Arnold, and they use that to power it, but how they built all the other stuff, I don't know.
Why would that power a time machine?
I don't know.
Do they think that the Terminators put their own fucking chips in the time machine before they teleport? That's how that's supposed to work? Like, there's one time machine and fucking Skynet makes it. Like, I have to assume the time machine must be really hard to make if your, like, world-conquering AI only manages to make one fucking time machine in, like, all the time it has to make it, with all the resources it has to make it. How the fuck did fucking Sarah Connor and Terminator Man make a goddamn time machine?
But here's the bigger question. Why do they need it? Because their plan is to go to 97, which is when Skynet's supposed to go online. And this is all by the original context. So apparently T3 and 4...
Wait, so they're planning on going to the future with their time machine?
Yes, which doesn't make sense because they could just wait.
Also, I thought... Maybe I'm misremembering like Terminator lore, but I thought their time machines only went backwards.
I thought that too.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're going to go to...
They probably do. They just made it up for this movie.
Yeah. Well, they're going to go to 97, and they're going to stop Skynet there. And at this point, I'm already asking, why not just wait and just like figure out stuff now when it's easier to do it? And, like, you'll be alive in 10 years, hopefully.
That's a really good point.
Just hang out and just do it there. They never explain why
That's a really good fucking point. It's not like you're going 100 years in the future.
No.
Like, you can just time travel the normal way, motherfuckers. Just wait.
Because that's the other thing, is that they time travel themselves to, like, a day before it goes online. So there's a time limit. And it's like they almost fail over and over. It's like, what? Who came up with this? And the whole thing is also, Arnie can't travel through time because he's got metal in him, and the time machine can't take that, so he has to just wait.
But doesn't he have, like, the organic shit around him that's supposed to, like, allow the Terminators to travel?
Oh, that's what it is. It would burn the organic material for some reason.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense, but...
I guess I can just assume they made a really fucking shit-ass time machine.
Yeah, okay.
That must be what happened. That can only go 10 years in the future, which is completely useless in your current situation, and won't even let your like most valuable like person go.
Right.
That's the time machine they managed to build.
So they go 10 years in the future, and they get there, and for some reason it deposits them somewhere totally different, like on a highway, sort of like in the Sarah Connor
or like
Chronicles.
Into deep space because they made a shitty time machine that didn't account for like the movement of the Earth.
And when they get there, Arnold has been waiting 10 years, and he knows the exact position they're going to get out, but he's stuck in traffic. The Terminator is stuck in traffic. And so Sarah and Kyle get arrested, and they're in jail, and then John Connor shows up from the future, and he saves them, and then it turns out he tries to kill them because he's now a nanomachine robot called the T-5000.
Did Hideo Kojima write this fucking movie?
Hideo Kojima would have made a much better movie than this.
Sure he would have.
Hideo Kojima, at the very least, does interesting stuff.
Sure.
Let's go with that. This is
But
silly.
He certainly loves his fucking nanomachines.
He does love nanomachines. So anyway, he's a nanomachine robot. And anyway, I forget what happens. They escape John. And then at some point, they're on a bridge, and there's a shitty action sequence with a bus on a bridge.
Is it the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yeah, and it's all CGI, and it looks terrible. Eventually, they decide... oh god, this is hard to figure out. So, Kyle Reese is having parallel universe flashes to his other self growing up in this split timeline. And in the future, in like 2017 or something. And so he remembers that there's this program called Genesis, which is what will become Skynet. And so...
It's a really convenient name for the program.
Yeah. And so they know they have to stop Genesis. Why they couldn't just cut all that out and say it's Skynet, I don't know. But anyway, so they have to...
Because they needed a dumb subtitle for the movie.
Right. So they have to go to the Genesis building and bomb it. And they get there. I think there's the whole Golden Gate Bridge chase, all of that. Anyway, they get there. It turns out to be really easy. They just kind of plant the charges. And then They try to blow it up, and then I think that's when Matt Smith reappears as an AI, but it's just animation, and they kind of hear his voice a little bit, but you don't really find out who he is. I think there's a flashback somewhere, though the other scene Matt Smith is in, there's only 2, and it's a flashback to when he karate chops John Connor, and then he talks to him and I guess convinces him to be a robot. That's the only other scene Matt Smith's in.
So is Matt Smith a good guy or a bad guy?
He is Skynet, is the whole thing. He's a robot. He is...
Okay.
Yeah. He is the Skynet central AI. He is like Cortana for Skynet.
So convincing John Connor to be a robot was like a ploy that like John Connor should not have done. Bad thing?
I'm not sure if John Connor did it willingly or not. They don't really explain.
Okay.
Anyway, Sarah kills her own son. That's the climax of the movie, is they have to kill John Connor.
Well, he's a robot. He's not really John Connor anymore.
Yeah, but it's kind of fucked up because also there's no... Let's be honest. There's no possible way she could have that same child now. Just by probability, even if she fucks Kyle Reese is not going to shoot the exact same, semen into her that he would have in that other situation. They would have a totally different child. So John Connor is erased in this timeline as far as I'm concerned. Because that's how science works, guys.
Yeah, and now it's, the savior of humanity is fucking Gary Connor. Nobody likes that asshole.
Yeah, they could have a daughter, and then because of the rules of action movies, she couldn't do anything, and that'd be sad.
Sarah Connor Jr.
Yeah, anyway, so... Yeah, something with the factory, they blow it up. Arnold then becomes a T-1000. He falls into a vat of the, molten T-1000 lava stuff. And then Sarah and Kyle run away from the explosion after they kill John and blow up the Genesis factory. And then they're stuck in a bunker. And then T-1000 Arnold comes and breaks them out. And that's the end of the movie where they're all like... Well, no, the end of the movie is then T-1000 Arnold takes them to Kyle Reese's child home, because where Kyle is now a little kid in this part of the present day. Right. And Sarah has to tell Kyle a message that older Kyle remembered his parallel self hearing from her, but only happened because he told her to go do it. So it's awful time travel logic. It's worse than the worst Doctor Who stuff.
It's like if Stephen Moffat fell and hit his head and wrote a script about Terminators.
Yeah, only worse. And yeah, so... And that's the end of the movie, and then they drive off, and then after the credits, the Matt Smith AI reawakens, and they didn't accomplish anything.
Well, of course, because the whole thing about Terminator is that nobody understands in the Terminator universe how time travel works in the Terminator universe, and they don't fucking realize that everything is set in motion, and that you cannot fucking... There is a fate that is beyond what you make for yourself, you fucking idiots. This is the 5th goddamn movie.
Yeah. Anyway, and then let's see, what else happens? So... Kyle and Sarah show no chemistry of any sort at any point in the entire movie, except that she says at one point, you're the father of my son, and he didn't know that somehow, and so he's kind of blindsided by that, but they don't like each other, and then in the last scene they kiss, and it makes no goddamn sense.
So at no point in the movie do they do the dirty?
No. There's no fucking. So that's what I'm saying. John Connor is gone. He cannot exist in this timeline anymore.
Presumably, maybe they just never even do it. Maybe Kyle Reese just decides, you know what? I'm not so into you, Sarah Connor. I'm going to find someone else.
I would love it if they did a twist where this Kyle Reese is gay, because there's all these other changes happening, and it's just look, I'd like to, but I'm not into you.
Or it's time travel makes him infertile or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Ooh, we really fucked up our own plan this time. No, we probably should have tested that first.
It's their bad time travel machine, doesn't
it? Yeah.
Anyway, so, yeah, it is... I can't even necessarily say the movie's bad. It's just baffling. There's nothing about it that's even vaguely redeeming... Really, but it moves it's decently paced. It's not necessarily painful to watch. In fact, it's kind of entertaining because you're trying to figure out what the fuck their idea for this thing was the whole time.
It's just the whole time you're watching the Terminator franchise just crash and burn in terms of where they have gone with that series and they're just complete inability to evolve it anywhere past where basically Terminator 2, Terminator 3 were. And their inability to do anything new and interesting with the franchise, and that they're fucking stuck in this crazy goddamn time loop of their own making, unable to escape the impact of their own franchise.
And like the Jurassic Park movies, they just keep getting worse and worse, I really feel like each sequel is worse than the last one.
Yeah.
And I include Terminator 2 in that. I don't like that as much as the first one.
Fucking yes, Terminator 1 is by far the best Terminator movie.
Absolutely. Anyway, but and here's the thing. So I'm not necessarily surprised that this movie ignores Terminator 3 and 4 or the Sarah Connor Chronicles, because of course it was going to do that.
Yeah.
But
it would be insane if a new Terminator movie took the TV show into account.
But it's pretty obvious that this also ignores Terminator 2, because nothing in Terminator 2 could happen in this universe either.
Well, yeah, because, it seems like it's a completely split timeline because they had the Terminator, old Terminator is in the past. Did they explain how that happens?
No, that's a mystery. That's the sequel setup at the end of the movie.
Is how the fuck did this whole movie even happen in the first place?
Right.
That's a great way to leave your movie off.
Yeah.
That's a good, confident note. It's and you want to know how any of this was meant to happen? Wait for our sequel that's never going to be made.
And, I think I am at a point where clearly whoever's working on these movies cannot figure out how to do a Terminator sequel. But I do think if you wanted to, you could make the franchise extend. Sarah Connor Chronicles is really good. Yes. Terminator 3, I will always defend. I think that's a good action movie. I don't think it's great, but I think it's good. And
sure, it has its moments.
It has the best action scenes of the franchise. I will confidently say that, because I don't think James Cameron is that good an action director.
I'll agree. Yeah.
But there's a truck chase, fire truck chase in 3 that I think is amazing. And it's got a good ending, too, that I think you actually could have picked up on. Where you just admit that, okay, we never could have stopped this. Yeah. Let's go on. It's the only way... And it's kind of funny that this entire franchise is predicated on ignoring the most beloved chapter, which is T2. Yeah. It may not be our favorite, but it's clearly the most beloved worldwide.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And for all of the sequels, you have to ignore that movie existed.
Mm-hmm. You have to undo that movie, because that movie, ended mostly with, the feeling that, well, we won. It's supposed to be over now.
Right. But they just keep fucking it over and over again, and at this point I really do hope it's dead, because this movie did terribly all over the world, and
they never should have made any Terminator movies past the first one.
Yeah, I'm glad T2 exists.
I like T2, but I just mean in terms of the franchise as a whole.
Right.
Just their whole concept of time travel and all that stuff. Terminator 1 is by far the most interesting movie, just because it's the only one that feels like it understands what it is, and it doesn't need Terminator never needed to be a franchise. No. It never needed sequels in the first place. Even if I do really like T2 as a movie, and I love Terminator: Sarah Connor Chronicles, there's a purity to just having Terminator 1 and ending with, well, the future's probably still fucked. That storm is on the horizon at the end of Terminator 1, and that's where the franchise needs to stop, because it can't sustain... Just the time travel stuff makes the franchise impossible to be a franchise anymore. It's just completely fucking paralyzed. And it can't do anything.
And the other thing is, there's a reason why the Sarah Connor Chronicles is the best follow-up, and it's because they went with different characters and stuff.
And they completely changed the setting, because it's they did with the future or whatever, abandoned, everything that they were doing, changed all that shit. Yeah. And then, focused on using the TV format to make John Connor an interesting character that you can see how he develops into who he's supposed to be.
Right.
That's the only way that I can really see doing more Terminator stuff, is by doing John Connor really well, but I think it would be really hard to do that in a movie.
Yeah, and but that's what I was going to say, is that all the current movies are so obsessed with doing Arnold again and redoing other things, whereas, that show, it's all new Terminators. It's not, and the Summer Glau character was fascinating. She's by far the most interesting Terminator in the series. Yeah, Arnold is a fun, cheesy actor, but the Terminator isn't a character.
Yeah, you can't do that. The first movie, and it's also one of the reasons why the first movie is the best, is because the Terminator is just this ruthless killing machine, and that's it. You don't have to have Arnold have to play, even though I do think he does a pretty good job in T2. The Terminator character in T2 is fundamentally just less interesting than fucking the Terminator, who just goes fucking rides straight up into a fucking police station, just murders every cop in the place. Yeah, that's my Terminator. Goddammit.
Absolutely. So let me quickly go through this list and just talk about the good movies from this summer.
All right, go
ahead. A couple recommendations. The first one's obvious. You've all seen it. Y'all love it. Pixar's movie Inside Out. It's the best film of the year so far. It's I think it's the best movie they've ever done. It could be the current pinnacle of American animation. It's brilliant. It's a masterpiece. I'm not the first person to say any of that.
Sure, yeah.
So I don't know if there's much more I can say. The movie made me cry. It made me think about stuff. It was honestly very cathartic. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant movie. And between that and Mad Max Fury Road, those are the two movies where I cannot believe either of those movies exists, let alone that they came out within a month of each other. Right. They're the kinds of things that you just shouldn't ever see in the Hollywood studio system today.
And also two... I mean, I haven't seen Inside Out personally, but I assume they are two very different kinds of movies. I assume Inside Out is not these personality fragments driving through the desert fucking shit up in cool cars.
But it is the kind of thing where both of them, I think, run so counter to what mainstream Hollywood is trying to do with movies and what it's trying to push in terms of just basic theme and content. Inside Out has moments that are abstract and experimental, just like Mad Max does, frankly. And it's got a story where the lesson of Inside Out is it's good to be sad sometimes. I can't imagine, if you had told me that going in, I'm like, how would Hollywood sign off on that?
Yeah.
That's a weird thing. And Pixar kind of has made a habit of doing that kind of thing. But even then,
it seems like they've kind of been out of their groove in recent
for
years.
a couple of years now. Yeah. And, but this is Pixar all the way through. It's brilliant. And, it's like, I think there's been... Like, I love WALL-E, and I love Up, and some of those from their, like, the kind of height of their golden age there. But I think you can also point to in those movies where they had big ideas and they reached really far, and I don't know if they work 100%.
Yeah. Like how the fucking first, 30 minutes or whatever of WALL-E that has no dialogue is, a fucking amazing movie, and then it's, all, the humans and shit. You're like, this movie is way less interesting than it was before.
Well, and I like WALL-E all the way through, but I'll be the first to admit, too, the first half hour is the best half hour of the film.
That fucking... part is so good.
And Up is Up is a really great movie, but it's got this weird disjointed thing where the second half is a lot more high comedy than the first half, for instance. So you've got those kind of things that happen too. I would put this in the same realm as like Ratatouille or The Incredibles, or Toy Story 3 is one that really where their bold ideas work all the way through. And it's just it's a great movie. It's so thoughtful about the things it does, because I think we've seen this kind of thing before where filmmakers try to take psychology and psychological concepts and put it into a recognizable cinematic framework.
Yeah.
And usually it's much more simplified than that. This is not dumbed down. I mean, it's accessible. It's not inaccessible. Sure. I saw it twice with full audiences, many of whom were children, and they were raptured by it. They were really into the movie. But it doesn't simplify emotions, and it doesn't reduce. I think it's very disarming how it does a lot of that stuff. So anyway, great movie. That and Mad Max are just, you look at those and it's like, this is a good year for film. I don't even care what else came out. Those are two classics.
Yeah.
But two other good movies. Trainwreck, which was written by Amy Schumer, starring Amy Schumer, but directed by Judd Apatow. My favorite comedy this year so far. Really, really great movie. I think the best movie Judd Apatow himself has made. The first one he didn't write. And it's just Amy Schumer, if you like her stuff, and I love her TV show, I love her stand-up, and this is such a clear expression of her voice, but also going much further than I think her voice has in the past, where this is very earnest and has a lot of dramatic elements to it, but also some just really, really great comedy. She's great in it, so is Bill Hader. So is LeBron James playing himself, which is great.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a whole scene where LeBron James and Bill Hader are friends in the movie because Bill Hader's a sports medicine doctor.
No.
And they play basketball together sometimes, and it's LeBron and Bill Hader playing basketball together. And if you know, Bill Hader is not that tall.
Yeah.
LeBron James is.
Yeah.
And he's trying to play basketball with him, and LeBron will not go easy. And it is so funny.
That sounds pretty good.
Yep. Anyway, great movie. One of my favorites this summer. Love that, too. And the biggest surprise on this list for me was Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Not because I didn't think it was going to be good. I thought it was going to be good, because I like the Mission Impossible movies. And they've been getting better and better, frankly, once you get over the interminable hump that is Mission Impossible 2.
Sure, yeah.
But 3 is pretty good. 4 is really good. This is great. This is the first one in the series I would say is a great spy movie.
Cool.
Now, I like spy stuff. I like espionage stuff. That's just... I think everyone has a genre where they like... even the shitty knockoffs of that genre.
Sure, yes.
Spy movies are that for me. I liked, when I was a kid, reading all of the bad James Bond knockoff books, like Alex Rider and stuff like that. I'm just into that kind of espionage thing, and
yeah.
I like even the knockoffs. I have yet to see it, but I'm excited to see the Man from U.N.C.L.E., which just came out, because that's another one of those kind of spy movie things. But Rogue Nation is the real deal. It is... And it's its own thing. It's not doing a James Bond riff. It's doing its own kind of Mission Impossible flair. But it's just, the action is really great, but often it's not about, bombastic action. It's about cool, infiltration things. There's this whole long, it's 20 minutes, sequence where they go, Ethan Hunt has to go to I also almost said Ethan Hawke, but that is an actor who stars in Richard Linklater movies.
Who
very
sounds different. Has a name that sounds like he could be a secret super agent
yes.
guy.
But no, Ethan Hunt has to go kind of infiltrate this opera because there's a sniper there who's going to do something. And that whole sequence, it's done mostly silently with an operatic score. It's all about just these little moments of tension and build-up. And it's as good as I've seen that kind of sequence done in Hollywood in years. I can't even think of the last time I saw that done that well. There's a similar sequence in Quantum of Solace, but that's not even this good. So they outdid James Bond, which is pretty cool because James Bond is generally in film the best at this kind of thing. And there's some great action sequences. There's this chase in the middle of the movie where it starts with this like underwater infiltration sequence that gets to this big car chase sequence that becomes a mountain bike chase sequence or a motorcycle chase sequence through the mountains. And it's all great. Tom Cruise is awesome in the movie. Simon Pegg's in it, doing great work. Ving Rhames is back after kind of sitting. Yeah. He mostly sat out Mission Impossible 4, but he's the only other guy who's been in all of them. And Jeremy Renner's in it again. And while Jeremy Renner, I think, was very poorly used in the previous Mission Impossible, he's used very well here.
Jonathan, do you think a day will ever come where Jeremy Renner is cast as someone that is not like a cool military marine dude? Because like...
You're right. He's kind of been typecast that way.
Because I remember when for like a class that I had last semester in the spring, I had to watch 28 Weeks Later, which I hadn't seen in forever, and I'd forgotten he's in that movie.
He's in that movie?
He's in that movie. Do you want to guess what character he's playing?
A cool military career guy?
Yep, he's a Marine sniper.
Nice. Well, it's funny because he is phenomenal in The Hurt Locker, but I think...
he's really good in that role. But I just found it so funny because it's like, 28 Weeks Later is like way before he was known for anything. It's like, fuck, this guy was still playing this exact same character all the way back in like fucking 2006 or whatever.
Well, it's funny because while he has a penchant for that, I think Hollywood used him very poorly at that for a while. Like, I think Avengers 1, The Bourne Legacy, and The Last Mission Impossible didn't use that side of his persona particularly well. They just kind of had him be the boring action guy.
Yeah.
This movie, Christopher McQuarrie, the director and writer, found a good way to use him, which is as more of a kind of authority and cerebral figure rather than just a kind of ass-kicking dude.
You're right.
Because that's what, the Marine sniper guy would be, too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's good. And that's what I think he is in Avengers 2 also, which makes a better use of him. Anyway, so that's great. And then the female lead, who I think her name is Rebecca Ferguson, and I've never seen her in anything. She is phenomenal in this. You could pluck her right out of this and put her in a James Bond movie, and she would be one of the best Bond girls ever. And it's not even about the romantic side of things. She's just she has it all. She's physically attractive, but she's also an interesting character and adds something to the movie. And it's like the first time they've had a female character in the Mission Impossible series who really feels like a three-dimensional character.
Right. Yeah.
So 5 movies in, but they finally did it. And anyway, just the whole movie.
Some movies, there's some franchises go that many movies without ever doing it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's pretty impressive to have. This is 20 years into this series, the 5th movie, and this is so far and away the best. It's like, it's not even funny. It's so good.
It's cool that like, the franchise is sort of like really taking its time. Like it's like 20 years, 5 movies. Like that's a long time for like that franchise to keep going, and that it. Like, I'm excited to, like, sort of, like, watch them again, because I've only seen the first one and the third one, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's, like, it's really cool to think that it's, like, hey, like, this movie franchise is still going, and it's just getting better. Like, it's not, like, having a bunch of ups and downs. Like you said, it has Mission Impossible 2, which I'll probably never watch.
You should watch it. You want to talk about Hideo Kojima-type plot? That is like your worst nightmare of a Metal Gear movie. It is totally like a Metal Gear movie. Does
someone's arm get cut off, and then another arm gets surgically planted on him, and that personality starts taking over that person, and all of a sudden they start speaking in a British accent?
They might as well. The climax of that movie is Tom Cruise and the bad guy lancing each other with motorcycles.
Okay, I'm going to watch it.
It's amazing.
I'm going to watch Mission Impossible 2.
I want to say this. Mission Impossible 2 is not a good movie, but Mission Impossible 2 is an amazing movie.
All right, okay.
It is incredible.
Apparently I had the wrong impression of what Mission Impossible 2 was.
No, it's not just... It is an incredible movie. It just happens to be an incredibly shitty movie, but it is an incredible movie. Yeah. I have the DVDs. You can have them. Anyway.
Mission Impossible 2, I want to say it's the only one that's on Netflix. There might be another one, and Mission Impossible 1 might be on Netflix, but when I looked when this movie was coming out, I was like, I wonder if any of these are on Netflix. I kind of want to watch a Mission Impossible movie. And I looked and I was like, well, it's only Mission Impossible 2. Like, what? Why is the only one the one that like everyone says is really fucking bad?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I mean... The other thing about Rogue Nation is just it's clear that people are loving it because it started and it had good box office its first week, but it keeps like barely dropping where people are... It's just got good word of mouth. And that's cool. It's definitely kind of... As much as you can have a sleeper hit with this kind of atmosphere of blockbusters, this is one of them. And it's worth it. And Tom Cruise, who produces all of these, has had a pretty clear policy of switching directors every time to kind of keep it lively. Yeah. And that's good, but if they want to, I think bringing Christopher McQuarrie back for the next one would be good. He is such the right match for this series. And he gets it. And it was a lot of fun. So
cool.
Definitely scratch that itch of like a really good spy movie that I don't think we've had probably since Skyfall.
Yeah, because it's a pretty niche genre. Cause it's like a subgenre of action movies, basically.
One other. Last year there was A Most Wanted Man, which is a John le Carre adaptation. That's not an action spy thing, but it's an espionage story. It's the same guy who wrote Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Yeah. So
that was a good movie.
That's a great movie. Yeah. Why can't we have a sequel to that?
Yeah.
Do it before Gary Oldman dies, please. I don't want to be morbid, but guy's not going to be around forever. Anywho, let's see. So that's all my movie stuff.
All right.
Do we want to talk about movie adjacent stuff?
Sure. Let's just roll into it.
Okay. We're going to go back a ways, guys. There are some recent movie trailers we can talk about, and we will. But let's back up a bit because
let's go back to a more innocent time. Let's go back to San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes. And I know we would get emails about this if I didn't talk about it, so let's really quickly. Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, they had their big Comic-Con trailers. The Batman v Superman trailer, I didn't necessarily think was great, but it was the first thing from this movie that gave me any positive indications. Sure, I actually thought there were some good things in the trailer. There are also some things where I'm not sure about, but overall, like the sense of the biggest reminder is that, okay, as much as we talk about this stuff abstractly of what the movie might be, this trailer was a good reminder that if nothing else, Zack Snyder can craft a fucking image. He can craft iconographic images.
Yeah,
and I think, if nothing else, this movie will be interesting on that level.
Yeah, he has a really strong sense of visual aesthetic.
And I hope that melds with a good story, too. But I thought that was clear in the trailer. I thought some of the character stuff in the trailer was kind of interesting. And overall,
I really liked that the beginning of the trailer just made me think, because, the beginning of the trailer is Bruce Wayne during the events of Man of Steel, on the ground, seeing that shit. And all that made me think about the entire time was Gamera 3, where they do the exact same thing, where, the girl that, gets possessed by the monster or whatever, she, there's a flashback where you find out the reason why she hates Gamera is because she was there during the events of the fucking end fight of Gamera 1, and, her family was killed in the events of that movie. It's, it's fucking mind-blowing. If Batman v Superman is as good as Gamera 3, Revenge of Iris, it'll be a really good movie.
Well, there is that really cool moment in the trailer that people have found and done the GIF matches online.
Yeah, of the lasers, the heat beams coming out and matching where they shoot to where Zod shoots them in Man of Steel.
That's a pretty cool little touch.
Yeah, it's a nice touch of authenticity.
And I think Ben Affleck's Batman voice, if that's really what they're going with, it's awful. But Ben Affleck himself looks good in the part.
Yeah. I think the thing that most just made me kind of roll my eyes at the movie was all the Lex Luthor side of it. Just it just looked like the main thing was when he says the red capes are coming. The red capes are coming. I'm what the fuck is what is that supposed to mean in the context of it's because if the trailer puts so much weight on that line, I just that line's not dramatic or interesting in the slightest because I have no context of what he's supposed to be talking about here. But then also I just think just don't even make him fucking Lex Luthor at some point. It just looks like they're not going for that character at all based on the trailer. It's obviously he doesn't look like Lex Luthor, but beyond that, it just doesn't seem like he doesn't give off any Lex Luthor vibes to me whatsoever in the trailer. It's kind of disappointing because I thought there's a chance that and there's still a chance with the actual movie that the character's going to be interesting, but when they went with the casting, I was oh, there's a chance that this could be a really cool take on the character, but the trailer didn't make me excited to see what he's going to do with it.
I kind of half agree with that because I actually liked Jesse Eisenberg in the trailer. I agree I didn't get any actual Lex Luthor vibes from it.
Yeah.
But I thought it looked kind of interesting. It's something where there's so little of it, I have to reserve judgment.
Yeah.
I don't know what the red capes are coming means either, but it does play over the shot of Superman ripping the wings off the Batmobile, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
there is a certain aspect of the trailer where it's that's really cool. There's a couple of really good shots, but
I'm still. It's just it sounds like it's going to be such a clusterfuck with the amount of characters they have and stuff. And I still remember Amazing Spider-Man 2. I still have those scars.
I didn't like Man of Steel, so I remember that, and I remember Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'm
yeah.
You made me think about Gamera 3, and I really want to watch Gamera 3 now. But other than that, I'm not super. Seeing that trailer did not really change my opinions on whether or not I want to see this movie.
Yeah, it made me slightly more positive. I mean, we're going to see it either way.
Yeah.
But it made me slightly more positive, but not rabid or anything. The Suicide Squad trailer, on the other hand, I really didn't like.
Yeah, I thought it was there's some things that were kind of interesting about it to me, but overall I was I don't.
There's one thing I liked about it. I like their Harley Quinn. I think that is a better live-action version of Harley Quinn than I ever, frankly, thought I would see.
Yeah.
And Margot Robbie just seems like the cartoon kind of brought to life, and I like that.
Yeah, like, because there is a certain aspect to, like, the idea of someone doing a live-action version of Harley Quinn. You're like, that could be really bad.
Yeah.
It looks like that character is probably going to be fine.
Yeah, but everything else, like, I think the choice of song, where it's the most somber recording they could possibly find, and just make it look as dour as possible over what is one of the sillier superhero movies being made right now.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And then I think the moment with the Joker at the end, Jared Leto's Joker looks stupid. I just can't get behind it.
And also, it just, like, makes me wonder, what the because I hadn't thought about it before until I saw him in the trailer, and then I realized, what the fuck is the Joker even doing in this movie? Like, he's not a member of the Suicide Squad. Like, is he just going to be a flashback? Is he, like, secretly the actual villain of the movie that the villains have to fight? Like, what the fuck is the Joker doing? Like, it's like the Joker is such a, like, larger-than-life character that it hadn't occurred to me before of, like, well, of course he's just going to be in this movie. It's like, wait a minute, he has no fucking reason to be in this movie.
Well, clearly they're putting him in the Suicide Squad, and I think someone said this on Twitter the day the trailer came out, and I agree. Clearly they're setting it up so there's going to be the good bad guys and the bad guys, and then at the end they're going to split and have to fight each other, and at that point I don't give a shit, but whatever. I think this movie has a chance to be cool. I just hate the way that trailer was cut. I think there's some good images in it and stuff, but I just, not a lot to judge there because... And then there was, as you were saying before we rolled on the podcast here, there's the weird way it was released, where, like everything in the history of Comic-Con, it leaked, and then Warner Brothers got really snippy about it.
Yeah, like, I just remember, like, there's, like, their marketing manager, like, someone just had this, like, fucking thing where they're like, oh, right, okay, great. Like, we made this trailer that we wanted to just show to the fans, the people who came to Comic-Con, but... Alright, fine. Everyone wants to see the trailer so fucking bad, I guess we'll release it. Like, this is why people can't have nice things. It's like... It's fucking marketing for your goddamn product, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, I've never understood this culture of, like, we are going to, like, take down trailers on YouTube, or, like, we're going to release, like, trailers only to this, like, convention panel, and, like, wait 5 months to release it to the larger public. It's like, it's a trailer. Like, it is marketing. It is advertisement. Yeah. It is not... So, like, it is not this fucking treat for the fans. Like, a trailer can be interesting to see, but, like, it's not something that, like, you just need to save, and, like, it's not something so precious like that. It's a fucking trailer. We see a million fucking trailers every single day, you know? Like, it's not that important. Don't make a big fucking deal about it. Release your trailer on YouTube that said, like an hour after you show it at the panel. Nobody at the panel is going to be like, well, this was completely pointless. Like, if the only thing you have to show to the people who came to Comic-Con is a fucking 2-minute trailer, then, like, you obviously don't really care about the fans because you're not doing anything actually special for them.
Right.
It's like, that attitude made me so fucking mad when I read that. It's like,
stupid.
What the fuck?
Well, let's stay on the superhero theme.
Yeah.
This was also shown at Comic-Con and then came out to the public a couple weeks ago, was the Deadpool trailer.
Yeah.
Haha, he swears. Haha, there's violence. Haha, it's 2001.
It's Deadpool. Like, I'll say this. I think if you're a person who is a big fan of Deadpool, it looks like they are doing Deadpool. I will also say this, as someone who has read some Deadpool comics and is vaguely familiar with the character, but not super, like, I've definitely not read, like, everything. I've always found Deadpool to be a completely hit or miss character in terms of, like, his humor, which is kind of the only thing he has. Like, he has the fourth wall breaking humor is, like, the thing that Deadpool's got. And occasionally that can be pretty funny. The vast majority of the time, it's just I just find it incredibly grating and obnoxious because he just like makes like chimichanga jokes and shit like that. It's like it's the lowest lowbrow form of humor. That's just it's not even that it's like it doesn't go for like gross out humor. It just goes for dumb like mean humor most of the time.
It's the Conker's Bad Fur Day of comics.
Yes, that is a surprisingly apt comparison that you pulled out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It is the Conker's Bad Fur Day of comic book characters. Yes. And so, yeah, if you're way into Deadpool, you should probably be fairly excited about this movie because it seems like they're doing right by the character. Although, the one thing about the trailer that I saw that I was like, this just seems really fucking bad, is the stuff that was from, I think, like, the original test footage stuff that, like, before the movie was, like, in pre-production or something, is that scene where he's on the bridge and jumps into the car and stuff. why in like a Deadpool movie with like your super over the top cheeky humor character do you film what looks like the most visually bland action sequence ever, just in terms of the single most gray fucking image I've like ever seen in my goddamn life? Like that whole scene, it's like the skies are overcast. He's in front of a big gray city on a big gray highway, jumping onto a big gray truck, fighting a bunch of dudes in just normal gray clothes. It's like, it's fucking Deadpool. Like, put some fucking visual excitement on the goddamn screen. Like, it's the most just like, ugh. Like, it's worse than like Gears of War 1 in terms of the color palette. Like, I just found that really shocking that that's like something they put in the trailer, you know?
Yeah, whatever. It also reminded me that every time I see Ryan Reynolds' face, I want to punch him because I think he's a fucking annoying actor. But at least he's in a mask for most of this movie. Sure. So.
And then when he's not in a mask, like he's super scarred up most of the time.
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah.
So. Not in the trailer. In the trailer, he's...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, the beginning of the trailer is, like, him going in to be Deadpool. Yeah. Getting Deadpoolified.
Yes. Well,
just
anyway.
to inject internet into him. And then he pops out and he's Deadpool. Ah!
Cool, yay. All right. So there's some other good trailers that have come out. We won't go into all of them. I'm loving all the stuff from Spectre, the new James Bond.
Yeah,
that looks so good.
Yeah.
I liked the Hateful Eight trailer. I'm glad we're getting some new Quentin Tarantino this year.
Although I also, because I watched that trailer like a week ago on YouTube or whatever, and like the fucking aspect ratio he's going for is so wide that like on YouTube it's like on my fucking laptop screen I was like, I can barely see this.
Yes.
Like,
well, I wonder how that's... So there's going to be... The way that movie's coming out is he shot it in 70mm, so it's going to get a 70mm road show in December, and that'll be the first release, so it'll come to different cities that can show it. And I'm sure whoever has a 70mm projector will know how to show it right.
Yeah.
But then I assume it'll have to be cropped for the digital release because theaters are having trouble with aspect ratios as it is.
Right.
Oh, I forgot to talk about that. After our last podcast, or maybe before it or something, I released kind of a rant on my site that has gotten a ton of attention, and I just wanted to mention it because, you know, maybe it's brought people to the podcast even because it's been a popular article. I get notices about it a lot from people, and it was about how I went to see Mad Max again, and I think it was right before we did our podcast, and I don't know if I mentioned this, and it was Cinemark Theaters is not masking their screens anymore.
Right, yes.
And what that means, if you don't know, is that this is very simple, which is why I don't know why theaters can't get it right. There are two aspect ratios for modern film, and they've been around since the 1950s. This is not new stuff.
Yeah.
There is what we call flat and scope. Flat is 1.85 to 1. It's about the same as your TV at home. It's 16 by 9. Then there's scope, which is 239 to 1, which is wide. We usually would call that anamorphic widescreen. And when you go to see a movie, that's why usually they will draw the curtains. So if their default is usually set to 16:9, and then they will either widen to widescreen or shrink to widescreen.
Yeah.
And that's been happening again for like 60 years. This is not new. This is movies 101. This is as basic as it possibly gets. And Cinemark, one of our biggest theater chains here, isn't doing that anymore. They have it all set to 16:9, and for a widescreen movie, they just show it letterboxed. And I cannot believe it. And that's their new corporate policy. And I've looked into this, and I've gotten emails from people, from like other managers, and people all over the country who it's not just Cinemark. Other chains are adopting this too. I was like, at that point, there is literally no reason to go to the theater. There's just no possible purpose because it looks like your TV, only shittier. Because at that point, the whole thing with that is that you're projecting, it's a light problem. So like, it doesn't matter so much for a movie like Mad Max, which is mostly bright. But if you have a movie with any color variation, which most movies have, they have light scenes and dark scenes, what happens is you have color bleed. So into the bars, you'll lose parts of the image. You'll also have things where light will refract off those parts of the screen because they're supposed to be masked by blackout curtains. You'll also have the bigger issue of films are shot in a particular aspect ratio for specific reasons.
Yes.
And when you do that wrong, then your attention is drawn the wrong way. So if you show a 16:9... If you show a 235 to 1 image on a 16:9 screen, your attention is drawn to the vertical aspects of the screen when it's supposed to be the horizontal aspects. So it all looks wrong. And this may sound like just petty bitching, but it's not, because this is not a thing to ask theaters for. This is
exactly like it's something where it's like it's so basic and fundamental that it further like strengthens my position of, like, I don't want to see movies in theaters that much because there's no reason to. If, like, they don't fucking give a shit about projecting the movie, like, I would much rather just watch the movie with the benefit of being able to, like, you know, set the volume how I want it, like, be comfortable in my own home, be able to go to the bathroom when I want, just pause the movie. Like, all the benefits of home video, like, way outweigh what theaters do when theaters charge way too much for movies, charge too much for concessions, and don't give you, like, an experience that you can rely on to be like a decent way to, like, project and experience the movie.
Yeah, and it's such bullshit. And, like, I've heard from a lot of people all over the country, and they're saying this is the policy for Cinemark everywhere. Someone forwarded me an email they got from a Cinemark manager when they complained about this, and that guy clearly knew nothing about movies, and he said, well, this is the way the movies were shot, and the studio wanted this list of films shown this way, and he listed some movies that I know for a fact the studio did not want shown that way.
Then, like, other theaters would be doing it if that was true.
The only one on the list is Jurassic World was shot in a weird aspect ratio and is supposed to be slightly letterboxed. That's the only one. And I don't know why they did that, because that movie's not good enough to be shot in a different aspect ratio. It's a fucking terrible movie. Anyway, so this just, if you're not aware of it, just be aware of that. Don't give theaters money if they do this. Like, I'm not going to Cinemark anymore, which sadly limits me to about 2 theaters in the state of Colorado I will go to anymore, because I've been boycotting Regal for a while because they're overpriced and awful and they never have bulbs in their projectors. And actually I did go to a Regal theater the other day because it was just the only place I could see this movie. And as I've been doing at theaters just to investigate this, I went and just dipped into a bunch of other auditoriums to see how they were showing things. Some auditoriums were showing their movies fine. Then I dipped into a screening where I think it was the Mr. Holmes movie with Ian McKellen, which I haven't seen yet, but I want to.
Oh yeah,
and
I didn't realize
it's
that was
out. Yeah, and how they were, and that's a widescreen movie. And how they were showing it is they were doing the letterbox 16:9 thing, except they had the movie zoomed in and the curtains drawn too tightly, so like you couldn't see like a good fifth of the screen was just gone.
It's like if you're watching those like really bad home releases of Dragon Ball Z where like, they've made it widescreen. You're like everyone's head is just cut off in this image.
And this is what I wrote in the article, because here's the next step, is they're going to start cropping widescreen movies for cinemas. That is the next step. They already do it for HBO and Netflix and home viewing options. If this is how theaters are just like, you know what, we're not going to mask our screens anymore, it literally is just the press of a button and we already have it installed, but fuck it, we're not doing it anymore, then we're done. Then what's going to happen is that filmmakers aren't going to shoot their movies that way anymore. And it's just going to be a further death of the artistic qualities of cinema in this country. And the other thing I've heard from people, and I can't confirm this, but it sounds like Cinemark has new projectors that do not allow them to shift and stuff like that, so that's why they have to keep it unmasked.
What?
Because they can't shift the image. Because what's happening is when you letterbox it, you put it in the middle of the screen, right?
Yeah.
But how you would do it normally is you would put it at the bottom and then shrink the screen, or blow it up and then extend the screen. Yeah. They can't adjust the image size because the projectors are locked. The other thing I've heard from people is that at AMC theaters now, all the projectors are run remotely from a base in Washington or something, some random state, and there are no on-site projectionists or people who even have access to the projection booths themselves. No one at the theater, if there's a problem with the movie, nothing can be done about it at AMC theaters. And I had known that was coming, but it's like, that's official now. And here has always been my stance. I don't hate digital projection for the sake of digital projection.
Sure, yeah.
When it's done well, like at the Alamo... here are the 2 best theaters in Colorado, if you want to know. The Alamo Drafthouse in Littleton and the Harkins in Northfield they show movies perfectly. No problems. Those are the best theaters you can go to for mainstream films. But if you go to one of those and you see a digital projection there, it's beautiful if you do it right. It can look really nice. I still prefer 35mm film, but this is plenty good. I would never complain about it. But the problem is that digital was not installed for artistic purposes. It was installed for financial purposes by the studios so they could rip you off just like this. And so theaters could cut costs and like get rid of hired and trained projectionists. Because a projectionist was never used to be like a high school student. It was a highly trained position. If you know what you're doing, that's a tough job.
Yeah, like especially like back in the day when it was much more highly technical,
right?
Than like now, like movies are just fucking like uploaded to like digital servers,
right?
And then someone accidentally like plays like Nymphomaniac at a like Yogi Bear showing or something.
Yes.
Like,
or
nobody's fucking paying attention to what the fuck they're doing. Or showing a bunch of kids effectively porn.
Yep. Or what happened this summer where Insidious Chapter 2 played at Inside Out, which I love. Or 3, whatever.
It would be 3 now. Okay. I'm sure, man. if Insidious 1 just, like, went to complete shit in the second half, how bad must Insidious 3 be by, like, the law of, like, diminishing returns for horror sequels?
Right.
Like, that has to be spectacularly awful.
Anyway, so that's just my rant on theaters right now. It's such a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
And it's too bad.
Yeah, it's a shame, because it's just, like, again, it's something where it's like, when I was younger, I really liked going to the movie theaters, because it felt like it was a experience that you're going to the theater, but, like, now it's just, like most of the time I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, the audio is so poorly adjusted. Like I can either, like, it's way too loud or I can barely hear. It's like, the image is so fucking dim. Like, I could, like, any dark scene is, like, impossible to see. Like, it's so lucky. Like, I was really lucky when I saw Mad Max Fury Road that, like, I didn't feel like there were any, like really standout problems with the viewing experience for that movie. But, like, most of the time it feels like there is some, like, glaringly fucked up thing about, like, the movie that I'm watching right now, or, like, I forget which movie it was, but I saw, like, I think it was Hobbit, where they, like, didn't, like, turn on the 3D or something.
You told me
like,
about that. That was,
yeah, the first Hobbit movie, and it's just like,
but yeah,
like, why would I want to go to your fucking theater? Like, I'd rather just fucking wait for this movie to be on iTunes or Netflix or something. And it's like, that's not, like, the greatest quality to watch the movie in. But like I said, all the other benefits of being able to watch it at home make it a way more comfortable way and, like, easy way to watch the movie that, like, outweighs wanting to, like, see it on the big screen for me.
Yeah, and I go to movies more than you, but you'll notice I've been to way fewer movies this year than I have in the past. There's a bunch I've wanted to see this summer that I just didn't get to and probably won't get to, and it's because part of it is the only theaters I like are a long drive away, part of it is the cost, and part of it is I'm just at the point where I would rather stay home and read a book or play a game or just do something else. I'm burned out on all of it.
Yeah, like, it's too much of a fucking hassle for something that doesn't give you enough benefit.
And I do think we're headed towards a bubble explosion on that, because there's a lot of people who feel this way, and that's going to come crashing
like,
down.
at a certain point, like, right now, it's at a point where I think, like, the most casual moviegoer is not going to be able to notice anything, but, like, it's going to get to the point where it's like, there's just going to be enough fuck-ups that's going to happen. Like, I feel like you, like, hear, like, the dumb story about, like, oh, like, they showed Insidious Chapter 3 at an Inside Out screening. Like, I've seen a bunch of those headlines where you didn't, like, 5 years ago, you would, like, never see a headline like that. Like, it's just, like, at a certain point, it's going to get bad enough that, like, once it affects the casual moviegoer enough that they just stop going to movies, it's like, the theaters are going to have to figure something out.
Yeah, I really do think this whole thing is going to come crumbling down, and good, because, and I think more than anything, it's going to be the cost. Those costs keep rising, and at a certain point, there will be a threshold where people stop paying. When it gets to, like, $15, which it already is in LA, you know, people are going to stop.
And it feels like the window for releasing your movie digitally or, like, on home like video is, like, that's getting so short. We're, like, to the point where it's like a movie's still in theaters and you can get it on iTunes, you know?
Yeah, you can already get Mad Max digitally.
Yeah. So it's like, at some point, like, that's, like, the one thing that theaters really have is that they have, like, you know, that sort of, like, in video game terms, they have timed exclusivity for the movie.
Right.
It's like, there's no reason for that to really be the case anymore when you have digital available.
All right, well, Sean, let's go ahead and wrap this episode up. We're at about 2 hours, and I think we've done a good thematic thing on movies and stuff. Yeah. And we're going to keep recording, but I'll put this episode out soon, and then the next one in a couple of days, and we'll keep going through how we spent our summer vacation.
Yeah, next up, we'll talk about a whole lot of video games.
Yeah, including Batman Arkham Knight, our official final review.
Yes.
So.